Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Amityville Board of Education Combined Board of Education meeting. The date is December the 11th, and the time is now 5:34. Present at the meeting at the point in time is the Superintendent, Dr. Susan Talbot, Board President, who's myself, Lisa Johnson, First Vice President, Carol Seahawk, Second Vice President, Megan Messman, Trustee Chris Naring, Caroline Fannin, Winnie Canestro. It's anticipated that Trustee Leslie Kretz will be arriving. Also present at this time is Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, Mary Stevens, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Dr. Richard Wade, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Olivia Watsey, Legal Counsel John Sheehan, and Financial Consultant Paul Flanagan. It is now 5:35. And I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations involving the ATA, discuss matters related to the public concern of particular persons, and to obtain advice from legal counsel.
Second.
Megan Messman is first, Wendy Canestro is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. We will resume open roughly around 7:30. Thank you for joining us.
Or discuss collective bargaining negotiations involving the ATA, discuss employment history of particular persons, advice from legal counsel, as well as to interview a candidate for the Assistant Director of PPS. At this point in time, please note the exits to closest to your sitting. There's no smoke in the school grounds. Please silence your cell phones and now join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we get started with the agenda, there's two things that I want to do, several things. One is I would like to make a motion to the Board of Education to change the order of the agenda. And the first request is to move the Superintendent of Schools report after the presentation of the annual Memorial High School course catalog.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Carol Seahawks first, Wendy Canestro is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. The second request is to move up the community input regarding non-board agenda items before old business and new business.
Motion. Second.
So I think that was Carol Sear first, Leslie Kretz second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. So community input will go after agenda item 3F2. And the last request that I have is that for old business and new business, that we keep our discussion under old business and new business to roughly about 30 minutes, just like we ask our community to keep their input to 30 minutes.
So moved. Second.
Leslie Kretz is first. Carol, so you have a second. Any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I do. We appreciate that the community is coming out here and we want you to have an opportunity to ask questions. But this is also a Board of Education meeting where we are obligated to do the business of the district in public. And so that you could see the public deliberations, you could see our thought process, you could see the questions that we ask, you could get the same answers that we get. So limiting the time frame limits our ability to do the business. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, any other comments on this?
I would hope that if we're just taking that as a suggestion, as like a goal for us to stay within that 30 minutes, but if we're having meaningful conversations, that it would extend beyond that.
There could always be a motion to extend it beyond the 30 minutes. Just like with the, like with the non-agenda items and the agenda items, there's always a motion that can be placed that we've reached our limit. Do we want to extend it beyond that timeframe? So the same thing would hold for Board of Education comments. Any other comments or discussion on this?
No.
Right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hold
I'm-
on,
I'm
Nay.
opposed.
hold on one second. I have to get the ayes first. So Lisa, who's another aye? Carol,
Yes.
Chris? Caroline is no. Megan,
No.
Wendy,
No.
Leslie? Yes, so the motion carries 4-0. And once again, we do have the ability to extend the time if needed for any of these areas. So going back to the agenda, I am gonna just make a couple of things so people are aware on the agenda item 3B1. I mean 3B2, just to make sure that it's correct on your agenda. It should say Assistant Director of PPS and Special Education. The background does say the Assistant Director of PPS, so it should read Assistant Director of PPS and Special Education. Make sure that you have that correct. And also there's a item that's going to be added to the agenda. Right, so I also want to amend the agenda now to add agenda item 2C4, right, which is the termination of the Honeywell contract. So I want to make a motion to add to the agenda item 2C4, which is a termination of the Honeywell contract. Can I have a motion for that?
Motion.
I think that was Wendy Canestro and,
Megan.
sorry, Megan and Caroline. Right, so that resolution reads resolve the Board of Education terminates the energy performance contract with Honeywell International, Inc. pursuant to section 3.7 on and authorize superintendent of schools to notify Honeywell International, Inc. Right, so that, and this is representing the 2022 contract. Yeah, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. So now we're gonna, once again, we've made those changes, and now I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Talbot.
Thank you, President Johnson. Good evening to the Board of Education, once again, our colleagues and community. At this time, we're going to have a presentation, just a brief highlight of the Amityville Memorial High School course catalog. We would like to thank Principal Cardone and his administrative staff for offering comprehensive and diverse courses for our students. The presentation this evening will be facilitated by our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Mary Stevens.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Talbert. So the course catalog for this year is largely similar to the one that we did offer last year. I just wanted to go over the framework of the catalog, some new additions, and some of the course offerings that we have had historically. So the first part of the course catalog offers general information on policies that are pertinent to students, especially as they relate to grading and attendance. It indicates what program levels we offer, which are relevant to the course weighting system. Copies of the New York State graduation requirements. So we do outline for students exactly which courses meet requirements. That information is in the course description. And then information about the seal of biliteracy, which we are proud to offer as something that goes on a student's high school diploma from the Board of Regents. The second part offers, in the second part are the course offerings. They are listed by department. At the beginning of each page, each department is a page that lists the electives and the required courses. There are denotations of courses that already have approval for NCAA. And there are indicators of what courses are new this year. The new courses for this year, both in technology, you can find those on page 72 of the course guide. So they do have that indicator that they are new courses. These were developed in response to student interest. One is the residential wiring course, and the other is the mechanical drawing and architecture course. These we plan to offer to our underclassmen so that they can start to think about their intentions for career and tech ed programs. So they would have the opportunity to explore something that they've indicated interest in and determine whether it's something they'd like to pursue as part of our partnership with BOCES. As far as our current offerings, we're proud of the robust curricular opportunities that we have for students. I did want to highlight that we have AP courses in a number of areas. Students do have the opportunity to choose among 21 AP courses that are in the catalog. And then we do have opportunities for partnerships with some of our local and statewide colleges for dual enrollment courses. Right now we have 12 opportunities for that listed in the course catalog. For those dual enrollment opportunities, students and their families would have to pay the tuition, which is typically at a reduced rate, directly to the colleges. So we do indicate that in the course offerings. We do have information for parents available about the deadlines for that. And students who successfully complete the class then would be able to receive a transcript from those partner colleges so that they would be able to transfer the credits as needed when they're accepted to colleges. And then finally, I just wanted to speak to you about the rollout then upon board approval of the course guide. The high school team would start with the process for scheduling. It would begin with a virtual meeting for parents so that they could understand what the process is for course selection, and then meetings with guidance counselors. After those parent meetings, the high school has designed a program where there would be a day of assemblies for students. So 9th through 11th grade students will participate in 2 different workshops. One will be with their counselors where they get the overview of that scheduling process. And the other would be a curriculum fair where they would go to the different department tables to learn about both the requirements and the electives that are offered and help them with their choices. The 12th grade students during that cycle would be meeting with counselors, doing presentations on the FAFSA process and the scholarship opportunities offered. And then finally, after that process, students would start working on what we call Future Me surveys. It would ask them to reflect on what their goals are moving forward and how their course choices are going to help them meet those goals. Using those Future Me forms, the guidance counselors would begin scheduling meetings with students. We estimate that that would be in mid to late January, hoping to have those completed in February. Once the course selections are in, the master scheduling team begins to work on how many students are interested in particular classes, and to work with us on the budget as far as staffing so that we can determine which courses are running, start programming students in, and ultimately have schedules for all of our students. That was all I had on the course catalog.
Thank you. Does any board members have any questions regarding the course catalog?
Hi, yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you for that. I looked through this. This looks like a lot of really nice offerings. I have several questions about it. Do we have enough core teachers in core classes as it is that we're offering this for next year? Like, will we be fully at staff for this?
We definitely have enough teachers for the core classes, and then the interest in the electives. I mean, certainly we have to schedule students for full schedules, It's a matter of looking at what teachers we have in which areas and then determining the staffing as we go through the budget process as well.
Right, I guess my concern is that we are offering these electives, which look wonderful, but do we have the staffing for
I'm
it?
sorry, so we do offer these to see where student interest is, but then based on how many are choosing it, the course may not run. So we do look at what options are available. In some areas, when we know there's interest in particular courses, they don't run every year. So there are certain courses that pair with one another where it will run. I can give the French as an example. College French one runs 1 year, AP French runs the next year. So that students will have an opportunity if they're interested in both, but it meets our staffing as well.
One of the offerings we have is American Sign Language. Do we have a teacher for that?
We don't currently, so the course catalog offers what we have had approved by the Curriculum Advisory Council. So we don't currently have a teacher for that. We're interested in engaging what the interest is, but we do not currently have a sign language teacher.
Okay. I mean, I'm just concerned because then we're gonna have to hire new teachers, right? But we let go of teachers, but we're gonna have to hire teachers for this, so.
So the catalog includes courses that have been previously approved. It doesn't necessarily mean that students are going to, they're going to choose from that future me form. It may be that American Sign Language isn't there based on what the interest is.
Okay, and then the last thing is about resources. Just for instance, I saw jewelry, there has to have material. Are we gonna have the budget to have material for some of these electives?
So the principals and the directors work with me and with Ms. Boazzi in the process. As far as supplies, it's in the budget. So we make sure there are supplies for any course that runs.
So it's already budgeted for.
It will be when we do our
Oh, okay,
budgeting
for this year.
meetings,
Okay,
yes.
all right, thank you.
Any other questions?
had-
Rita?
Yeah, I.
Go ahead, Caroline.
Is it in your plan as far as, introducing all the content to the students for every student to have one opportunity to sit like individually with their guidance counselor to make sure that they understand their options and that it's being, channeled appropriately?
Yes.
Okay.
Megan?
I also had a question about resources. I actually, I didn't have a chance to follow up with Dr. Talbot. I had heard that maybe we didn't have cameras for photography and drones for drones, like even this year. So has that been resolved? And
As far as I know, we definitely have drones. The cameras for the digital photography, you asked about digital photography, right?
Yes,
That's what
yeah.
you said. So for the digital photography, a number of years ago, they were purchasing digital cameras. The technology changed so quickly that they were finding they needed to replace them frequently. They realized that phone cameras actually are almost always equally good, and it was less expensive. So they do have cameras for any students who may need them, but most students are using their phones. So when we do the budgeting, we look at whether a small number of cameras need to be replaced each year.
okay, I thought I had read like learning about developing and like the whole process of photography. So I'm not, how does it
For digital photography,
a
it's
phone.
more like, so I will check the
Okay,
description,
if
but
you could.
it's
check.
more like the apps that they use to actually create photos for different purposes to modify them based on their needs.
Okay, and I also noticed the ruler is mentioned and we got the preliminary results. It doesn't look promising. That ruler is very successful and it's in the height. So how is that going to be addressed? That's in the course. It's in the back of the
We can
catalog.
edit
right?
that if we need.
Maybe just edit it out?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Uh, How are the students like introduced to BOCES? Is that worked into this?
So there are trips to BOCES. I think the first one has already happened for the year so that students can actually tour the facilities and hear about the programs. But then the BOCES counselors also come in and meet with students. They have presentations and videos where other students speak about their experiences so that they can hear about the different programs that are offered. BOCES also offers open houses that we advertise so students can go with their families in the evenings and on weekends.
And does that start with 10th grade?
The introduction of the program or where students are scheduled.
The introduction of the program, like
It would
when
be-
they start to learn about it, because it starts in 11th grade, right?
Right, so the 10th graders who are considering their scheduling options for 11th grade would participate in those.
Thank you.
I just have one more question. Has the district ever explored bringing in any career-ready opportunities within the district? I think I read somewhere, I think it was Hempstead and maybe Wyandanch, or maybe it was Roosevelt, like they had a barber, something with barber, and they, some of the districts have like electrical. Have we explored those opportunities in-house?
I can't speak to knowing whether it's been explored in the past.
But not now, it hasn't.
We have
been.
not explored that in the last
Okay.
few months.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, do we have ample Spanish-speaking social workers and guidance counselors to work with our students to make sure they have a full understanding of the course catalog?
As far as guidance counselors, we have 2 Spanish-speaking guidance counselors at the high school, and they do work mostly with Spanish-speaking students.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Talbot, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. At this time, I will provide my superintendent's report for the December 11th Board of Education Combined Session Meeting. And we would certainly like to start by celebrating our student and staff achievements. Ms. Wilshire and the Amityville Memorial High School Student Council, and I must applaud our student council. They are excellent leaders, and under her leadership, they are doing great things. They recently hosted a highly successful blood drive in the high school gymnasium. This event saw 107 donors register and an impressive collection of 71 pints of blood. Thanks to the outstanding efforts of our student council, these contributions will help more than 200 patients in local hospitals. Notably, it is great. This collection reflects an increase of more than 20 pints compared to the high school's previous drive, and this is a testament to their hard work and dedication of our students and staff. Last night, Park Avenue Elementary School Music Department hosted a beautiful holiday concert at the high school. The performances were a wonderful showcase of our students' talents, filling the season with joy and pride for our community. Additionally, members of the Board of Education and Superintendent's Cabinet attended the Western Suffolk BOCES Holiday Dinner. It was a special evening where we had the opportunity to see our high school students shine through their fashion and architectural designs and culinary experience. Their work exemplifies the creativity and skill cultivated within their CTE programs. In Wyandanch, I had the honor of helping to bring the barbering program, which is a CTE program, and we hope here in Amityville, we can expand our CTE offerings in years to come. We have currently administered 3 key surveys across the district to support our continuous improvement efforts. The Ruler Survey to measure our social emotional learning, the Culture and Climate Survey to assess our school climates, and the District Goals Survey, which will be released at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We would like to thank our staff for working with our students and taking the time to participate and give your feedback, as it will guide our decisions in moving forward, and we will share our findings with the board and community upon their completion. I would like to take a moment to just address some misinformation that was not released in its totality to our community regarding the debt of the Amityville Union Free School District. The $22 million that was communicated as a debt represents the net position, or the unfunded portion of our commitment to providing retiree health insurance over time. It's the difference between what we currently have set aside and the estimated future cost of these benefits. Under Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which is known as GASB, all districts are required to report the OPEB liabilities on their financial statements. This has been implemented since the year of 2018. Most districts, including Amityville, show a negative net position due to the scale of OPEB liabilities. And let me define what that means so that I don't misrepresent OPEB. Is it other post-employment benefits? The liability does not represent an immediate cash obligation, but rather a long-term projection of future cost. I would like to acknowledge our Board of Education and Administration and all who worked very hard to ensure that the 2023-24 school year ended with a fund balance of almost $700,000, coming from a deficit of over $3 million. I would like to provide an update on Northeast Elementary School. Northeast Elementary School, a historic landmark in the North Amityville community, houses our youngest scholars in a high-quality pre-K program. I would like to provide an update on our efforts to maintain and enhance the program's quality while addressing financial challenges. Currently, we receive funding for 85 UPK students, and we serve 127, utilizing 7 classrooms. The state provides approximately $587,000 annually to support this program. However, projections indicate that it will cost over $1.5 million to operate Northeast as it currently stands for the 25-26 school year. To address this gap, we have been exploring additional revenue opportunities, including leasing or renting unused classroom space within the building. We have met with vendors who are also leasing from neighboring districts and are receiving quotes as such. Applications for 4410 programming have been submitted. Those applications have been returned to us for further revision around finances, computations, and are in the process of being resubmitted. There was not necessarily a due date, but a time frame in which these must be completed. However, with the 4410, the financial implications will not be clear until approvals are finalized. There is estimation that perhaps if we service one child based upon that particular child's needs, we may get a reimbursement of $20,000. $15,000 or $40,000. So we are calculating what those ranges would look like for us. And they're simply estimates and ranges. That money also from the 4410 has to pay for the operation of the 4410 program. It does not appear that it will be a big revenue, but it would certainly be a way to serve more students and to cover the operation of the programs. We are also exploring the possibilities, and there have been some preliminary discussions, of relocating kindergarten to Northeast and reevaluating the use of portable classrooms at Northwest. We understand the significant impact these decisions have on families and our community. Our focus remains on increasing revenues. And I must applaud Ms. Olivia Buatsi and the team for increasing revenues through peeling back IEPs, peeling back Medicare costs, Medicaid costs, and peeling back those areas where we can increase our claims and our reimbursement values. And we have been decreasing expenses. As you know, one of our goals is to decrease expenses by 2% to make the cost of operating Northeast sustainable. A decision is anticipated by mid-April, aligning with the budget adoption timeline for the 25-26 school year. I would like to pause for a moment and acknowledge Mr. Carl Frazier, our financial consultant. Mr. Frazier has been a gentleman extraordinaire and an expert in the area of finances. He has provided assistance and guidance under my administration, and I am grateful for your impartation, your long hours, your wise counsel, your keen eye, and guiding us through the process of navigating financial solvency. Thank you for your continued support and commitment to our students and staff, and together, we strive to provide exceptional opportunities while maintaining fiscal responsibility. We look forward to our continued collaboration, your insight, and guidance as we move forward. Thank you.
Dr. Talbot, with the 4410, you just gave, I'm sorry, in regards to 4410, you gave a pretty good detailed information about 4410. Just for clarification, this is grant funding, the 4410, just for clarification.
The 4410 is money that we have to put out. Can you explain that real
Yes.
clearly so they'll understand?
Yes, when we spend the money, we seek reimbursement for the monies that we have spent based on a formula that is set by the state. So we have to go out there and negotiate our reimbursement rate, and our cost is reimbursed at that rate.
And in terms of reimbursement rate, you're referring to reimbursement for the students who attend.
The
The-
44 cent.
Okay. And so this is from New York State, the 4410.
Yes.
Any, excuse me, other questions from any other board members? Right. Seeing none, I'm gonna move forward, right, to community input regarding board agenda items. So this is community input regarding anything that's on the board agenda at this point in time.
Nakia Wolf, President, ATA, 100 Court North Drive. Just checking, because I don't know whether or not this was in the superintendent's report. So I guess that would be included as an agenda item, speaking to the $22.5 million. But I think I'm just gonna go through with my questions first and then comments so that I know that I'm on a timer. So first and foremost, you did answer my first question, is that whether or not this is something that only Amityville experiences. We do know that if this is associated with health insurance or payments that are happening in retirement, this must be something that every school district has to have as it relates to, because they all pay into retirement. We actually pay the state minimum. So there are some districts that pay 100% of insurance into retirement, 80, 70, whatever the case may be. We do 35 and 50. So wherever it is that this originated from, I just think that there wasn't enough information in terms of where it is that they got that. As it relates to the fact that we're obviously not operating a $22.5 million deficit, I don't think that we could and be open. So I think we should acknowledge that. The other part that I have is that how does this impact, or would this impact the tax levy or our general budget at all? So that's a question. It does seem that this information came out publicly all of a sudden as soon as there was conversation and talk about people trying to prevent Northeast from closing and teachers picketing as a result of not having a fair contract. If this was a huge concern, this information has been here for a while. Why yesterday? I really don't know. And it didn't seem to come out all over the place. It just happened to be from Facebook, and I think it was Amityville Magazine, if I'm correct. So I'm actually wondering, where would that information have come from? Because it definitely seems as though there's an issue somewhere in leadership as it relates to this information. In addition to, before I run out really quick, as I said before, that this seems to be an attempt to create a narrative that we don't have the money to negotiate contracts for all staff or go through the necessary processes to make sure that we do everything that we possibly can to see what options are available to us for Northeast. Because if there are not, then that means that we would be going into a second year of accessing teachers and other staff. It also means that we're going to get rid of more teachers, not be able to fill the open positions that we do have because of how it is that we unfortunately had to handle accessing the first time. And then what are we doing with the building? So we're going to get rid of all those people and then still have to pay to maintain the building. So anytime that you have the answers to those questions, especially as it results to the general fund impact, the tax levy, and especially since this is something that's not brand new, it had to have occurred for a long period of time, even during those times when the tax levy was 0% or 0.6% or any percentage other than 2%. So I just want to make sure how this would impact overall community and the school.
So thank you, Mr. Williams, for your question. The OPB liabilities are reported on the statement of net positions, which was reported. I'm certainly going to ask the business office to assist as needed, but it does not directly affect general fund or the tax levy, but it does indirectly influence the district's financial planning. And so it impacts our long-term borrowing cost, our credit ratings, potential increasing the financial strain on what is already a fragile budget. But is the district in a position to negotiate in good faith with our hardworking teachers? Yes, we are.
All right. The other piece to that is, how did that cost get so high? And that's really what it is I'm talking about. I understand that insurance has gone up over the years, but is our cost more than other districts who are paying more into retirement for their retirees? And if so, how is that possible?
So, Mr. Frazier, I know we were talking today about other districts and what it cost. Ms. Buatsi, could you allow him to just sort of explain what's happening in some of the other districts? Because we began to research this ourselves.
Yes, this amount has been at this level for many years. It's, as you had indicated, it's not an operating deficit. It's a calculation, this OPEB, or other post-employment benefits, it's an actuarially developed number. And all school districts are required to have this on their books. And in a minute, I'll give you some examples of what some school districts' numbers are. But it's a actuarially developed number based on a census the actuary takes of the employees who are currently in the district and those that are retired. It looks at rates, the rates in our contracts. It looks at many things to determine the number that's calculated. And it's an estimated number. If you look at last year's report, it also had $70 million calculated number. So this liability has the effect of reducing or not reducing, but determining the net $22.5 million that you see as a net deficit. Again, it's a number that is required by GASB for districts to place on their balance sheet. I did go through and look at a few school districts to give you a sense of what other.
Just move the mic down a little bit for me, thank you.
Sorry, what other districts are experiencing. I'm not going to identify those school districts, but I can tell you there's one district in Nassau County who has an OPB liability,
Just move.
OPB liability of $135,208. For their net deficit is $104 million. That's one example. Another example, I'll go to East End, where this district has a little under 200 students. Their liability was $22 million for a net deficit of $17 million. So it's across the board. There may be just a few districts that don't have the deficit. And that's because those districts have a high asset number on their books, and they also have restricted fund balance that's very high. So the assets on that book offsets some of the costs of this post-employment benefits to give them a positive net benefit.
Understood. I'm out
Yeah,
of time, right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My input is regarding agenda item 4.1. So my question is, in a previous meeting, specifically the November 20th meeting, it was mentioned that in order to, the steps that needed to be taken in order to create this committee for Northeast. And if I heard correctly, it was mentioned that a resolution would need to be done by legal. But I don't see a resolution anywhere in the agenda. So what's the status of that?
The status of it is that the Board of Education needs to discuss it further, and that's why it's under old business as a discussion. If a decision is made to create a committee, then we can adopt a resolution, and we can have a resolution and add it to the agenda for tonight.
Okay, because I thought at the November 20th meeting, it was decided that a committee would be created. Was that not the case?
There's more discussion that the Board of Education is going to be doing on that matter.
Okay, and in regards to something that was said in the superintendent's report regarding the 4410, also at that meeting, someone, I believe it was from the ATA, suggested that the board reach out to some of the other districts who have that 4410, and to find out, to ask questions and to inquire about if, in fact, that would benefit Northeast. So did anyone on the board reach out to neighboring districts to find out, any more information if it would in fact benefit Northeast?
So it wouldn't be from the board, it would be the superintendent. So I can ask Dr. Talbot.
Thank you, Ms. Stevenson, for your question. Prior to that discussion, administration had already reached out to a Nassau County district who was implementing the program, had meetings, gotten a cost analysis from them. And in addition, there have been 2 additional school districts that we have contacted and had conferences with around the operations of their program. So yes, thank you.
So was it decided that you feel that the 4410 would be a benefit in regards to Northeast?
There are benefits to having the 4410 program. We submitted the 2 applications. In terms of bringing in the kind of revenue, it would be one stream, but it would not be the premier revenue stream to close the gap that we're looking to close.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, evening, Madeline Quintine McConney. Piggybacking on the committee or so-called committee. Am I to understand that this committee is a New York State Law 402A for closing public schools? So if the procedure for closing a school building, you need at least 6 months in advance of proposed school closing. So my question is, why are we trying to put forth a committee? We don't need one because we're not trying to close this school. So we do homework and we look. And so that's what the New York State Law 402A for a committee, which one of your trustees is so pushing to push this closing of the public school and mentioning this committee. So we don't need a committee. We need solutions. And we need something to say that this is how we're going to structure and how we're going to make sure that Northeast School, which is a premier educational building that has been doing its level best and more than level best, are excellent in teaching our young scholars as they move forward. We also have one of your community members that live in the district, one of your trustees. And while she's not fighting for this, is beyond my comprehension. So let's get it together. Let's move forward. Let's make a plan. And let's have a committee of people to get together to see how we can push forth this agenda of keeping Northeast School open. Sound like a plan to me. And let's see, there was one other thing. Oh, that 4410. So it's being worked on or was worked on and it's come back and it's being resubmitted again. All right. And I just want to make one other small comment and I'll probably come back again to the mic, but
Is it connected to the agenda?
in regards to Northeast School.
It just,
Okay,
because we're getting to the end of the
Okay.
input from
okay.
on
So,
on
'cause
agenda
I'll let
items,
these
so
others-
I'm gonna probably have to ask the board to extend the time on agenda items because we're past, even though we haven't reached the 8 minute on the clock, we're already past the 15 minutes. So we just need to make sure that we get, so I'm just relax. I'm just asking the board if we can extend comments on regarding board agenda items for just another 15 minutes. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
We have to just keep to the 3 minutes clock.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so
Hold on, Chris Neeren is first, Wendy Canestro is second, so we're gonna extend questions regarding agenda items for 15 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. So
No,
just,
and-
can you just reset it to 15 so that way?
Okay. So my little 27 seconds I got left here.
Yes.
I
that's it.
just want to make sure that we try to even explore while we're doing this 4410 to bring kindergarten back to Northeast School.
One at the bottom.
Good evening, Superintendent. Good evening, school board members. Sidney Martin, 45 North Baldwin Place, Massapequa, New York. I have a question referring to the article put on this Facebook page. Are there any members of the school board who are admins for this Facebook page?
I don't know that.
Pardon?
I said I don't know that. Not that I'm
Well,
aware.
is anybody want to volunteer? Is anybody on the board an admin for this Facebook page,
Right. So,
the Amityville magazine that put this information out.
so I don't know, and I don't think any board member is going to speak at this point in time, so
Okay,
let's just.
because to me, this is kind of, was this public information, Superintendent?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it was in the 2023-24
website.
audit report.
Okay, thank you. Getting back to the school, you talked about leasing. Are you not willing to lease to any kind of charter school? Is that off the table?
Yeah, it's kind of counterproductive to lease to a charter school because then it's taking revenue for us. So
I just want to make sure.
yeah.
Great. And so your plan for the building, if it's empty, is to lease out? So that's good, and it's not going to a charter school? And I just want to know that we support you keeping this school open and to do whatever you need to do. We're willing to do that as a community, and we support our teachers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bishop Walter Woolley. I'm the pastor of the Prayer Tabernacle Church right here in Amityville. Amityville is a community of people that should show a concern for everyone. Therefore, this board that we elected should also have the same concern for the needs of our community. When one hurt, we all hurt. When one rejoice, we all rejoice. So therefore, the North Preschool that's been here over 70 years, that's been a beacon light for our community, is one of the oldest schools in the community. Yet, it's one of the schools that has never been remodeled in over 50 years. Northwest, Park Avenue, the high school, even the junior high school, they've all been renovated in the last 10 years. But Northeast, which is on prime land, which has the potential to do great things, has never been looked at to build up its building, and yet some of the funds went to Northwest. That's a shame. So there, we as a community understand that the board has an obligation, but the concern is this: are you looking at other options for what is important to our community? Because what we do today will affect us on tomorrow and further on down the road. So I want to know, is there a 5-year strategy plan the board has in plan to talk about today, the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years? Because a strategy plan would give us an idea what could be the potential of the future of our school and our community. A school is part of the community, and which is part of the family. And again, we need everyone on board for what's best, the best interest for this community. This is about people. So therefore, we pray that it's not a hidden agenda that somebody's thrown in there to make this school be a priority for someone else. So therefore, Northeast School, right, of the community, from Sunrise Highway to 110 to Great Neck Road to Albany Avenue, that's a block of where most of the people that live in that community. If you close it down, it would affect a community, would cause so much pain and hurt. And you don't want to do that in the community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Deborah Kenny. 38 years ago, I moved into Amityville. Northeast School had a pre-kindergarten program already implemented. There was a teacher, there were maybe a few crayons, maybe a few coloring books, and a few puzzles. That was it. The children were timid. and it was just a very sad sight. So some of my friends and I got together, chipped in our own money, went and bought some toys appropriate for pre-K. We began socializing with the children in little groups. We had a meeting to explain to parents the reason for pre-kindergarten was not for academia. It was for socialization skills to be developed. Thank you. Also, at that time, let's face it, we all know that this was a racially divided community. And anyone who says it wasn't, there was certain people that would go certain places and others wouldn't go. This brought parents together. This made it a social thing for parents as well as the children. I had children in there after we had, first teacher, Donna, left. Jane Linehan became the teacher. She was great. But there were so many children, there were about 24 children in the classroom, and it was in the cafeteria at Northeast School. These children were so timid that they didn't want to leave whoever it was that dropped them off. And they would sit there like little clams and not say a word. We got them to become friendly with other students. We would individually try to go to each one of them and take them to another student. We wanted them to be sociable. It wasn't learning the alphabet then. It was to let them be sociable. The program was so successful that Jim Hicks was the principal at the time. Jim Hicks gave us the biggest hugs and said it was the most progress he had seen in this town, in the school district, in his career. He was so impressed with the program. We would run Christmas drives, Thanksgiving food drives, clothing drives, and all the parents participated. Every parent was there to donate something, even if they didn't have 5 cents. They'd bring a box of peanuts or something. But it was the idea that we were coming together as a community, which we need now more than ever. And I would really hope that you will do everything in your power to keep my pet project, the pre-kindergarten, together and Northeast School safe, because we need that. We need that school.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heather Palmore, 21 Summer Lane, Amityville. I've been a resident of Amityville for almost 55 years. I was 2 weeks old when my parents moved into Amityville. Unfortunately, or fortunately, both my parents were educators in Nassau County, in Malvern and Roosevelt, and it was a time when you had a choice as to where you would attend school if your parent worked at the school. So I attended Malvern Public Schools, and I make sure that I mention that because I'm going to loop back to why I want to mention Malvern for a second. Although I did not attend schools here in Amityville, I was very much aware of the advocacy and the work that was put in by what we would call now our ancestors, who fought very hard for busing at Northeast. And besides that, there is a undercurrent here where there are a lot of issues that are going on that no one wants to speak about. And from the beginning of time, and what this country was founded on, was racial oppression. And I'm going to speak truth to power because it's the elephant in the room and nobody wants to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. And the reason why we're going to talk about it is because systematically, by design, from the beginning of time, education of Black and brown students has not been a priority. And the fact that we are standing here 55 years later, still talking about this is a shame. It is a shame. I want to point out something to all of you. You may not know this. Very few of you know this, but many of you don't. As an attorney who practiced here on Long Island, about 15 years ago rather, I was appointed by Regent Roger Tillis to the school board at Roosevelt. And if anybody knows the history behind Roosevelt, there was a huge deficit. And they closed the board. They took everybody on the board and they removed them for financial impropriety because they were not managing the funds the way that they were supposed to be doing it. And they brought in people from the outside, people who did not live in the community, to make decisions for their community. And I was one of them. And what started off as a deficit turned into a surplus and an entire new district full of innovative, state-of-the-art schools. The way that that happened, though, and I implore the leadership, the board members, in conjunction with your attorneys, to make sure that you are working with the community to get Albany's attention. It's Albany who's going to eventually write that check to make sure that the funds are here. That's why we elect elected officials. That's why they are there to advocate for us. So we're all fighting and going back and forth about what this is. Ultimately, they're the ones who are going to be bailing you out. But what saddened me more than anything, I came here today to talk about Northeast. What saddened me more than anything is to look at all of these teachers here that are working without a contract. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem, board. That's a problem. And your children may not be in that school district. They may not be here right now. But there are parents in here who have to send their kids to this school every day that are depending on each and every one of these teachers to come in here and give their best effort. And you have an obligation to make sure that each and every one of these teachers and administrators feel appreciated. Both can be true. And with that, I will leave you, but I'm asking you to work together with your elected officials to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that, because we only have about maybe 4 minutes left, and the key is this, and so I just want to make sure that we get like the last 3 people. I think the 3 people the last 3 people that are there to ask questions regarding the agenda items only, and then after the third person, I think there's 3 there. We'll stop there. Thank you.
Good evening, school board members, Amityville residents, and concerned parents. My name is Samantha Francois, and I'm here to read a statement on behalf of Assemblywoman Kimberly Jean-Pierre. The Assembly members' comments are as follows. Over the past year, I've worked diligently with the district to help address their fiscal issues. I have closely monitored the situation, engaged with board members, parents, administration, Western Suffolk BOCES, and the State Education Department. I can assure you that the next Assembly member, Kwani O'Farrell, will also work closely with all stakeholders in Amityville School District. He is well informed about the financial challenges facing the Amityville School District, and I will provide as much additional information as possible during the transition period. During the budget process in Albany, I received news of the school district's budget shortfalls, and more specifically, I learned of the potential closure of Northeast Elementary School. This was extremely alarming, and I knew immediate action was necessary. I reached out to Assembly leadership to ensure funding was secured to prevent the closure. As a result, $2 million was allocated to the Amityville School District, with $175,000 allocated for a financial consultant to provide critical guidance to the district, $100,000 to restore much-needed student clubs, and the remaining funds go towards the Northeast Elementary School. I specifically stated these intentions for the funds to the district superintendent, to the school board members, and also incoming school board members who inquired about the purpose of the funding. The state budget does not specify specific line items, but I was clear that the intention for these funds was to benefit the Northeast School, pay for a fiscal consultant, and student activities. Closing Northeast Elementary would damage the foundation of our community and eliminate its rich history. This closure would be a step backwards, resulting in the loss of valuable jobs. It would also eliminate the pre-K program, which has been vital to our community. Research shows that children who attend pre-kindergarten programs are more likely to succeed in high school and college. This program also offers early intervention services with both save the school district money long-term and indefinitely developmental concerns earlier. The pre-K program has been invaluable to our hardworking parents in Amityville, and its central location makes it accessible to all residents. I must also express the concerns regarding Mr. Fraser's resignation. Through my conversations with the State Education Department, Mr. Fraser received the highest praise and is extremely qualified for this position. As a former Amityville resident, he welcomed the opportunity to assist the school. I have been made aware of allegations of mistreatment that led to his resignation. If these allegations are true, it is deeply concerning. I have the utmost confidence in Mr. Fraser's ability to help right the ship in Amityville. It is essential that a fiscal consultant work effectively with the business official. Individuals such as Mr. Fraser are highly skilled and can navigate financial challenges. I implore the board to reflect on these claims and ensure that all district personnel are treated with fairness and the respect they deserve. Additionally, I must note that the current foundation aid formula is woefully inadequate. The state legislature has been taking steps toward fixing the inequities in the formula. These inequities, such as outdated income ratios and insufficient funding for special needs students, had adversely affected the Amityville School District. This is why I advocate for a study of the outdated formula, and recommendations based on those findings have recently been released. I hope these recommendations can bring meaningful changes for our district. We must all work together to address the issues facing the Amityville School District. Closing the school and removing the fiscal consultant are steps in the wrong direction. We need to find alternative solutions to these challenges without compromising our children's education or hurting the community. I urge you to consider other cost-saving measures, as these actions will likely have long-lasting negative impacts. Finally, I would like to note that I will no longer be elected office December 31st. My commitment to our community will always remain, and my door will always be open. If you have any immediate questions or concerns, please reach out to my office. Thank you for allowing me to address the current state of the Amityville School District. Thank you.
Good evening, Andrew Iodigi, 24 Ira Court, Amityville, New York. I wanted to address the board on a couple things. Obviously, with the potential closing of Northeast School, I'm an Amityville alumni. I lived here my whole life. I'm an Amityville graduate, and that's a vital educational foundational piece. I still remember my teacher from Northeast. My nephew just graduated from that program, so we really live in proof, and we really need that program. And you can see it speaking volumes. We here as a community, so whatever it is that we got to do, we got to start getting ahead of the bus. If we got to start tapping in with the elected officials ahead of time, if we got to start doing local fundraising, if we got to, whatever we got to do to bridge the gap, we got to make that happen. Another issue I wanted to address was, I run the Boulder Mac Park Summer League. I also run the Mac Academy. That's a student athlete incubator that's right here in Amityville. It's an acronym for Making Athletes Career Knowledgeable. So it's like a one-stop shop where student athletes could come get the athletic training, but at the same time, come get career advice, come get civically engaged. When we say civically engaged, we teach them about politics, not just the presidential election. As you can see, our local officials is heavily involved. Assemblywoman John Pierre kind of saved the day. So we trying to get our kids heavily invested onto that. But I said all of that to say I requested the gym on this I requested the gym on a Saturday. I requested the gym last summer every Saturday just for a rain site when we wanted to use it, and I was denied because I understand our school was in a financial situation where we couldn't maintain the facilities on the weekend. Also, we run an annual Halloween hoop fest that I wanted to do. I was denied that Saturday. I was denied the high school, and I was denied the middle school. And now I see December 14th, the Amityville Soccer Club is being up for it on a Saturday as well. So and I offered to pay for the gym. We had to go to Long Beach, and I had to pay for the gym in Long Beach. Also had to pay for transportation to get kids out there. So if that's the situation where the gym is available, could you let us know the price and why is it available to them and it wasn't available to the Mac Academy? in closing, again, I didn't want to finish off with it being about a use of facility thing, but I want to finish off speaking about the facility and the importance of Northeast in our neighborhood. Again, I want to speak about the, the importance of the educational for our kids of that age. They're vibrant, they're young. That's like, I feel like is the most important thing. And it kind of bothers me that we even speaking about closing that school. It bothers me that we even speaking about closing that. So whatever it is that we got to do again, let's get on the same page because we can't close that building. Is there an answer on why I didn't get the building that Saturday and why they got it?
Right, so, when your request was put in at that point in time, you honored the request of the Board of Education where we had decided from last year that we were not going to use the facilities on the weekends to minimize our cost. Now this request has come in, and now this request has been.
What changed? What policy changed for them to get it on a Saturday? Or like, was there a price or anything like that? What changed that they was able to get it on a Saturday and the Mac Academy wasn't able to get it on a Saturday or Sunday?
I think it was some of the trustees that came forward and asked for it to be placed on the agenda. And I believe when you submitted your request, you respected what the Board of Education had previously requested, which was not to use the facilities on weekends because we were trying to minimize our costs. There were trustees who requested for this to be placed on the agenda for this time, and that's why it's here.
Can I
And I
just
respect-
clarify something?
Yeah, we have.
Can I
I
just
re-
clarify something?
I respect.
We were,
oh, my fault.
we were requesting that all applicants that applied for weekends were brought forward. And this
And I
was the
bel-
only one that was brought forward.
And I
So-
believe we asked for somebody to reach out to you.
So the other
to let
thing,
you know.
just to make it clear that when last year, when the budget was being done, the board had decided that at that point in time, that we were not going to utilize the school on the weekend because of the cost connected to custodians and security guards. And so when your request came in, that's what the board had, the request came in based on what the board had decided previously. That's how the administration had responded. So when this request came in, and it came before to the cabinet, when the request came in for the Amityville soccer, and when it came before the cabinet originally said no. Then there was questions that were brought up about whether or not, why can't it be done? So that's what happened. You respected the request, and then
Yeah.
there was pushback from other organizations.
So can I ask the board members that, pushed that request, what was the difference with the Amityville Soccer Club and the Mac Academy?
We don't, when did you submit your request?
I submitted my request last summer for the use of the whole summer. We
In the
usually do that.
summer, like in June?
We requested for it in June, but I probably submitted it like probably a few months before that. Then this one that we requested in October, I submitted it in, I want to say August, but I submitted it to Ms. Deborah Briscardi. That's who I usually use. And I was informed that she wasn't working there no more. Then I submitted it to the right one, and I was told that we wasn't using the facilities on
So,
weekends.
yeah,
Thank you
correct. And
for
just for clarification, and I'll let Megan speak.
Yeah.
As I stated before, when the board did the budget last year, the board had decided that we were not going to use the facilities on the weekend to minimize the cost. When you submitted your application for October, for use in October, and even for the summer months, the request was not granted because of the same reason that when it went to central administration, based on what the board had previously stated, that the facilities were not going to be utilized.
And
on the
that
weekends.
wasn't,
So-
that's what I'm saying, not to cut you off,
So-
Ms. Johnson,
but
that
go-
was October, this is December, what was the
So,
switch up?
go ahead,
I
Megan's
just
gonna
have
finish.
to say that the board did not see your request. It
Okay.
never made it to the board.
The board did
And
not
what
see.
happens
So-
in May, you got 4 new trustees that didn't agree to change the facility use policy. The
I-
facility use policy never changed. You can use the facility on Saturdays.
Um,
So we never received your request.
Miss Missman, that's false because I have emails from Ms. Buatsi and I have emails from the superintendent, Ms.
Maybe
Talbot,
not the
telling me.
Board of Education. It never was brought to the Board of Education to vote on.
So who was it that denied my thing? If the board, because I got it to where it says the board didn't approve it.
I'm going to jump in here a second too. So I am a big proponent of the children of Amityville being able to use our facilities. I also know that you do a lot of work. If I could speak, I know that you do a lot of good work in Amityville, and this was brought to our attention that the soccer wanted to use it. At that time, we specifically asked administration to reach out to you to resubmit for any Saturday use so that it can come before us to consider. So what changes, you have more trustees that want the children to use the facilities now. I'm a proponent of, I don't believe in double taxation or whatever, that because we already pay taxes, but there is the opportunity to have a fee if it has to be imposed if we don't have the money. For instance, if you're taking the children of Amityville and you're paying for them to go to Long Beach, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You should be able
And
to,
paying for the gym in Long Beach.
you should, I'm only one person, this is my personal opinion. I think you should be able to use the facility in Amityville. Having said that, Sunday is double overtime, so we have to be cognizant of that. So it was a discussion that was going to be up tonight. I was surprised that I didn't see an application from you on this because we did ask them to reach out to you to resubmit.
Because I did the event in Long Beach. I'm gonna submit for February now, but I don't have anything going on at the moment.
No, I understand, but what Ms. Messman is saying is that stopped before it came to us. We didn't see it, we didn't know about it.
I want to add
So-
to this, when you look at the agenda, it looks like we're all set to approve soccer where we already rejected basketball. Don't take anything, we haven't gotten to that conversation yet. That's later in the agenda, so.
And I
all
don't
of us
want you
knew-
guys to reject soccer. Like, I'm all for all sports. I just want to know why was it that I was rejected and they wasn't?
Well, so we have to revisit the decision that was made last spring.
I'm an Amityville alumni. I won a Long Island championship here too. I was all Long Island. I got a full scholarship to Columbia State Community College. I went to Cumberland University. I graduated from there with a bachelor's in health and PE, fitness and wellness. I run a youth organization. I got the biggest basketball tournament in Long Island right now. So, like,
We love sports. We know they're important, and we were looking forward to having an opportunity tonight to revisit a decision that was made last spring for all the kids. We just haven't gotten to that conversation yet. You brought it up, and it kind of spurred us to start talking about it, but all the facts are not out there yet. I don't think we can cut the line in the agenda, but we were expecting to discuss it for the benefit of all the kids, not just the soccer club.
but I do want to leave with the facts that I submitted two submission requests and for the summer, for June, July, August, and I submitted one for October and September as well. So that's the facts, and I was denied.
So I'm
It's a
just gonna just say one, go ahead, Leslie.
Just, you did, Andrew. You did all the right things. Maybe the timing was a little bit off, but we did not see the application. I knew there was. I didn't know if they pulled it or what. And then the new board decided to try to get Amityville soccer in. We have to discuss it. We just haven't done it. We didn't do it in executive session. We have to do it in open. But, apply again. Carol, do you want to? And we may even turn it down. We might turn soccer down also. So we are fiscally.
I
trying to be
appreciate you
more
guys. I
responsible.
definitely submit. I appreciate you guys. I just wanted some clarity. Thank you.
And I
Well,
just wanted to add
I'm
that,
glad you came up. Thank you,
Not a
Andrew.
problem, not a
Thank you.
problem.
that yes, the board had decided no facility use. However, the narrative seemed to change when we had board members bring up the soccer league. So that is how it initiated with the soccer league.
Well, thank you.
Go, next person. Thank you, Andrew. Next person.
Madam President, trustees, Madam Superintendent, I'm Dr. Veronica Henry, 13 Melody Lane, Amityville, New York. I'm not a stranger here. I've been in this room many times, and I advocating for students, providing service for students. And tonight I stand there opposed to the shutting or the closing of Northeast Elementary School. We need to educate the future, and our students are the future. Okay? Early childhood education should be a must to all. all students. It is so important in their developmental stage skills, their social skills, their emotional skills, and their cognitive skills. Secondly, it benefits the family earning power. Okay, facts. Children with pre-K education are more likely to graduate, to complete high school, graduate, enter college, graduate from college, and earn higher wages during their career path. I could go on and on and on. I'm a retired educator and college administrator, and I know that it's very important to educate our children. Pre-K, if we close Northeast now, considering what's happening and maybe forecasting for the Department of Education, the next thing it will be closing the other schools. We can't let that happen. We have to be the voice of our young kids, our children, our youth. They remember. I've been in Northeast Elementary School many times, as a role model for the district. And I know you know about these events that the school district holds. And a couple of years ago, I was with in the school, and I gave a little talk about the heart and everything because science is my thing. And so a couple of years after, I met the students. I was in the store, and this young kid said that he was about, at that time, now when I met him after preschool, pre-kindergarten, he probably was around going into middle school. And he saw me and he said, "I know you." And I'm saying, "Where did I know him from?" And he said, "You came to our school and you taught us how to jump up and how the heart beats and race." And then I said to him, "What size is the heart?" And he said, "You're like your thumb." So they remember. So it's for their formative years. We need to preserve that for kids. And so I urge you, I urge the board, I urge the budget people to go back to your committee, your budget committee, and rework your budget.
Thank you.
This will not work. Education is really at a very pivotal point. We need to protect it, and we can't start closing schools.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item, can I do agenda item 2A1 to 2A7 altogether?
Yes.
Right. Can I have a motion for agenda items 2A1 to 2A7, please?
Motion.
Second.
Chris Neeren is first, Wendy Canestro second. Any question regarding any of these items?
I don't have a question. The comments that I sent were updated in the minutes. I just, with the new district clerk, I'd love that we would indicate a time in the video. So it's easy to go back to, like, we kind of know, like, see the video for the discussion, but it would be good to, and I know we talked about this months ago, but to timestamp going forward.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on this item, these items? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
My motion carries 7-0. Can I do agenda items? Let me do them, some of them together. Well, 3B1.
Lisa, can I just make a comment? I think we might be able to do first and final on number 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to come
Oh,
down the
okay,
right.
number
Yeah, yeah. All right. So what I would like to do for agenda item 2B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and even number 10. Can we do them as second and final reading, either third and final reading? All right, so if everyone's okay with doing agenda item 2B1 to 2B10 as final readings?
Final for all.
Final for all. Yep.
Second.
Leslie Kretz is first, Winnie Canestro is second. So these are final readings for all these policies. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have is it a motion to table agenda item 2C1 legal?
John,
John?
Yes.
Yeah, can I have a motion to table agenda item 2C1, please?
move it.
Second.
Winnie Canestro is first. Carol Seoff is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2C2, please?
Motion.
Chris Naren is first.
Second.
Caroline Fan is second. I just want to say, once again, Carl, it's been a pleasure working with you. You've been with us and you've been an asset for us. This is something just how I feel. You came with a lot of accolades, and you have been very beneficial to us during this time frame. And I'm very sorry to see you go.
I feel the same way, and I really wish
Janine O'Connor as Assistant Director of PPS and Special Education, effective date January 13th, 2025, on or about. Certification status of SDL with a rate of compensation of $143,000.
So that's not, that can't be an on or about date. That has to be a date.
On,
On,
yes, sorry, on January 13th.
on January 13th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Can I do 3B3 all the way down to,
No, can we do
3B1.
3 to 6 separately?
okay, can I have a motion for agenda item 3B3 to 3B5?
No, 6.
Sorry, 6.
Second.
All right. Leslie Crest is first, Caroline Fannin is second. Any questions regarding these agenda items?
Yes, just looking for clarity, Dr. Talbert, you explained in your email that this position of the family or parent liaison, it's a change from a Title III program, which is for ENL students, to Title I.
So to clarify, the position was in place last year,
Mhm.
and it was funded through Title III, with an emphasis on reaching out to bilingual families. We want to expand that to reach out to all families to align with the district goal number 4, to increase our parental and community engagement. And so these parental liaisons will be funded through our Title I funding source.
Okay, so the source has changed, but the budget item or the expense is the same.
Yes.
Okay. And do all the liaisons speak Spanish?
No, and they do not need to.
Why?
It seems like you took a program that was expansive, you changed it to make it more inclusive, but then made it less so by not having a requirement that they could communicate with the parents.
So we do have a program called Language Line that our staff are familiar with, and it translates when we communicate with the parents. So even if you're not Spanish speaking or Haitian Creole speaking, you can communicate with the families through Language Line.
So it's like a mechanical thing that changes what you're saying and makes a translation?
No, it's
Right.
through the telephone. Would you like to elaborate?
It's just a phone number that we call and we get an interpreter on the line. So anyone could communicate with parents who speak other languages. We have a number of ways that non-speakers of languages can communicate with one another. So we do have human interpreters who are able to work. We do have, through Parent Square, people can communicate in other languages as well.
When this program was Title III and it had 4 liaisons, did they speak Spanish?
You can elaborate on that, ma'am.
There were 2 liaisons last year, and one was a Spanish speaker and one was not.
So are we paying for an interpreter then, like each time one of these liaisons reaches out?
Go ahead.
Potentially?
So there are a number of different resources. Some have costs and some don't. So if we had a human interpreter, there would be a cost incurred for that.
But if we have a subscription, then it's not a la carte cost. It's just a subscribed cost, such as Language Line.
Right. Language Line does have a cost per minute.
Per minute? Per minute?
Correct.
So then it's gonna cost more than potentially the stipend, right? Because now we're paying also for an interpreter.
Yes.
Well, so communication with families sometimes will have costs attached to it, whether it's the liaison doing it or someone else who's doing it, yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments on these?
I just feel like, how hard would it have been to find Spanish-speaking parent liaisons?
All right, so I'm sorry, but community can, you can minimize the comments from the audience. I appreciate it. Thank you. So, what was your question, Caroline?
I find it unfortunate that for this position of parent liaisons, with 60% of our families being Hispanic, we don't make it a priority that the liaison speak Spanish.
But we don't
only
always
for-
have, we may not have enough personnel in the district that speak Spanish for the position. So I believe, so
Well,
I
generally,
think
when we hire, it is something that's at the forefront of our minds. What is the role, and is speaking Spanish necessary, and does the applicant have, that capacity? So
I don't think that the second language is always as important as I am sure our administrators looked at the best effective candidates. And then if need be, interpretation comes second. But we're looking at the effectiveness of the program, and thus that's why certain candidates are selected.
So can I ask, how was the program measured last year and how effective was it? And how are we going to measure this program this year and determine how to move forward?
So last year, the liaisons ran workshops for parents. Some of them were virtual workshops, some were in person. We had moderate attendance at those, but the function was a little different. It wasn't necessarily drawing people into existing parent events, but it was creating events for them. So it was measured based on attendance. It was moderately successful as far as attendance was rated. The goal of this program is to ensure that families are welcomed, have the resources that they need, that contacts are made, they know what events are coming up in the community, that they know how to access Parent Square, how to access the parent portal, and that they see a welcoming face when they enter the building who can help them acclimate for the different events.
With all due respect, it's December 11th and we've been talking about Parent Square and we've had Parent Square. This is the second year with Parent Square. So we're talking about needing a stipend position to continue to affiliate our parents with Parent Square. And when I thought we already knew that we had like 98% usage on that app.
So Parent Square is one aspect and role that the parent liaison will carry out, but the position is much larger than Parent Square. It is engaging with parents, reaching out to parents, ensuring that parents can successfully navigate the school system, ensuring that they have access to opportunities, working along with our existing social workers, guidance counselors, and other personnel in the school to ensure that our parents are properly acclimated and that they can advocate for their students' needs, and to ensure that our schools are warm, open, and friendly, as they all are, but there's a contact person that will help them to navigate that. And that would be the 4 persons who are listed here on the agenda this evening.
Leslie, you want to
One
say
thing.
something?
With all due respect,
Just bring the mic closer.
I'm hoping that this has nothing to do with the personnel, one of the personnel that was hired tonight for parent liaison. That has been questioned many times before. So that's what I'm hoping. So can
Mrs.
we
Pre-
move forward and
Yeah, can we just move forward on, any other comments? in this
I
commi-
agree with you. I find it very interesting why all of a sudden there's questions when a certain
Right,
person.
so,
Thank you.
yeah, so can we move forward to vote on this? Any other comments? Can we just move forward, because everyone has said something on it already? Anything new that wants to be added to it? Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? I'm sorry.
No, I voted for it. I just had questions.
Wendy, I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Motion carries 7-0. Can I do agenda item 3B7 all the way down to
Can you go down to-
118?
Can you go down to 42?
Can I have a motion for agenda item 3B7 to 3B42?
Second.
So Wendy Canestro is first. Chris Neering is second. Any discussion on this item, these items?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I do agenda items 3B 43
To 106?
to 106 altogether?
Yes.
Yes.
3B 43 to 3B 106. Can I have a motion for these
So
items?
moved.
Second.
Carol Seehoff first, Winnie Canestro second. Any questions or comments regarding these items?
Yes, I have a question. I know that we're going into the second term of Leaders of Tomorrow. And some of the criteria, the grant was that surveys had to be sent out to parents and students to get their feedback. Has that, before we approve this, has that happened for the first semester?
Dr. Impagliazzo has a survey. It's set to go out to both parents and students starting this Friday and into Monday to Wednesday of next week
And when does the next session begin?
in January.
Okay, and that will be shared with the board?
Absolutely.
And and also part of the grant is based on attendance. So do you have any feedback about attendance? Because I think we have to meet a criteria for attendance on this.
So we track attendance regularly. We do meet with our state liaison, so we're okay with attendance, but we do use that to inform what we're going to do for the second session. So there were a number of activities that students indicated they were interested in, and we ran them, but then attendance after the first week fell. Those are not programs that we intend to run again because we do want to maintain the high attendance. And we do keep in mind that the goal really is to increase attendance during the school day by developing connections with students after school. So we know why it's important that they're well attended.
Okay, right. I just want to make sure that we're in line with the grant. And then lastly, for the classes being offered the second semester for the parents for childcare, will classes be offered the same days?
The
So-
same days as the
So
one.
if,
Yes,
if,
keep the schedule.
yeah, to keep a schedule for the parents, is it going to be offered on the same days that we did the first semester? So if parents made arrangements for childcare or something, are they going to be offered, say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Are we going to be consistent with that for the second half of the year?
So I can't guarantee that in the scheduling because the same classes may not be offered.
Okay.
Right, so a student may have an interest in a course that's run on a different day.
You're
would
saying it
be-
depends on the class. So if
Right.
they choose a different class, it might be different. but-
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I do 3B 107 to 118 altogether?
I'd like to discuss 109.
So I can do it all together?
Yes.
Can I have a motion for agenda item 3B 107 to 3B 118? Is this something that needs to be in executive session?
No, I just want to discuss an exit form. I know that we requested it from Mrs. Waite. We didn't have time to discuss it during executive, so I'm just requesting that she send it to the board via email tomorrow so we can review it. Thank you.
Okay, just for 3B 109, for the backup, the resignation date is effective today, which is December the 10th, so September 11th, I'm sorry. So for agenda item 3B 109, the resignation is effective today, which is December the 11th. Any other questions or comments regarding these items? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I do agenda items 3C1 through 3C4 altogether?
Wait, what?
No.
What'd you say?
No.
Say that again.
We need to take them separately.
Yeah.
All right, can I have a motion for agenda item 3C1, please?
Oh, okay.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Caroline Fannin, Chris Neering, any questions or comments regarding this item?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C2, please?
Motion.
Second.
Winnie Canestrio's first, Caroline Fannin is second. Any questions or comment regarding this item?
Yeah.
Oh, just.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Ron.
so, one thing I need to clarify is that I am on the board of Amityville Soccer. And so that is part of the reason that it has gotten pushed onto the agenda, but my motivation has not been to solely have this impact Amityville Soccer. It was to get the ball rolling so other organizations could hopefully utilize the buildings as well. So that was my motivation for pushing this onto the agenda, so we could discuss it and try to figure out a way that if it's not part of the budget and the cost is too much for the district, that we figure out some way to minimize the cost and try to recover the cost. And that just needed to clarify that.
Okay, for me, I just want to state that, once again, last year when we did the budget, one of the things that we, in looking at being fiscally responsible, one of the things that we said that could help minimize minimize expenses in the district was to minimize the use of the facilities on the weekend. I don't have a problem with the facilities being used on the weekend, but I think it needs to be done in a different way. My feeling is that if we're going to open up the facilities on the weekend to organizations, then we need to be able to clearly say to everyone that the Board of Education has now decided to open up the facilities to organizations with the understanding that if, for example, it doesn't cost more than whatever number. So the question that I give to the board that we may not be able to answer right now is, so if someone comes to ask to use the facilities on a Saturday and a Sunday, for example, or on a Saturday, whatever it may be, for a couple of Saturdays, and it costs the district $4,000 or $5,000, hypothetically, are we going to allow that organization to use the facilities? So I'm not looking for an answer, but I'm just saying that if this is what we're going to do, that people who apply to use the facilities on the weekend need to have an understanding up to what amount is the Board of Education willing to pay for having the facilities open on the weekend. I'm all for kids. I'm all for the youth in our district. I'm complete for that. I'm for a fair process that everyone knows what are the guidelines to use the facilities on the weekend and what would be the cost to use the facilities on the weekend. If it's limited to a number of Saturdays, so therefore, if you can use it for 7 Saturdays and the cost is going to be $3,000, then people who are asking to use the facilities on the weekend know what to ask for. So that's my only concern with doing this at this point in time. There's no guidelines that's available for anyone that's going to be utilizing facilities. And we're going to open ourselves up, in my opinion, if we turn someone else down, that may be more than 2,500, what will happen from there? So that's just my comment.
Here's what I would like to see happen. I have a son who plays soccer on the club. I'm not on the board, but I have an interest in kids playing soccer. I totally think that we should do what other districts do, which is charge for facility use that goes above and beyond what's happening already. So I do support charging for weekend use to the clubs for whether it's security, heat, electric, custodial, whatever it takes. And yes, there needs to be some sort of policy or framework to refer back to keep it fair. In the interest of just like making up for lost time now, I'm in favor of the soccer club paying the $2,500 so they can play on several weekends and letting everyone know if you're willing to pay, send in your application.
Can I just make one comment? This is my comment. When the Board of Education last year in a policy committee meeting started to have a discussion about the use of facilities, we got such a backlash in terms of charging for the use of facilities. We got slammed in a policy committee meeting about the use of facilities and paying for it. So I have no problem asking for organizations to pay, but it's just very interesting that now we're willing to possibly consider having organizations to pay. And I'm telling you, I got
I think it's
slammed
okay
in
that
that.
we changed.
No, but
think,
I got it, but I got slammed in that policy meeting. And
that's
there
not
are
fun.
people.
I feel you,
Yeah,
Lisa,
no,
but I just think
right,
that,
but there are
like,
people here on this board that I got slammed by, all right, for asking about paying for use. We were just having a discussion on it. So on social media.
Yeah,
So my
social media,
thing is this,
yes.
is that I have no problem. This is a kid. I have no problem. Times changes, boards changes. I've got that. but it has to be a fair process for every person who puts in an application. Every person has to know, okay, you can use it for X number of days, and I'm all about change. I have no problem not changing, but we have to be fair on how we're going to do it. That's all I'm saying.
So we, oh, can I just, okay.
If I could just weigh in here. As I had said, I am a big proponent of the children of Amityville being able to use of the Amityville School District, because it also includes East Massapequa, being able to use our facilities. Most other districts have, if it's 51%, of the roster is of Amityville students, we may change that to say 75% or 80%. It is 75% now?
75%.
Okay, so if 75% of the roster is Amityville, what I'm saying is we already pay taxes for these facilities. The facilities are owned by the taxpayers. So then to charge them again, I think is double taxation, right? So I'm not saying to charge them. I do think that children benefit when they're playing sports, as to the gentleman said, you have them in a positive environment, you're working with them, the mentoring them. I think there are so many positives to that. And not to mention, these students often come to the school district and excel in the sports once they're here. What I would find problematic is Sundays. Sundays is double time. That would cost us a tremendous amount of money. As for the high school, I had asked, high school is open for varsity sports on Saturdays. We already have a custodian. We already have a security guard on staff. The fees would not, I would find it also problematic if we're going to pass on those fees to a league or somebody using it if we already have it there, right? If you're using the other schools and it isn't open because there's no varsity sports there, that's a different story. As for advertising it, as for things changing, I have to tell you, the policy has never changed. The policy is the same. It's not written anywhere that you can't use it on Saturdays and Sundays. So while that may have been conveyed to the gentleman, I haven't seen it in writing. It's not on the policy. In my view, you should have been able to apply. It should have came before the board for us to decide. The board has changed, and when there's board members are ever changing, right? This board won't be here probably in 5 or 10 years, maybe it will, but it's always changing. So the priorities, the perspectives, the vision of a board also changes. My vision of the board is to have the kids of Amityville use our facilities. So
Any other comments on this item, these items? Because it's just two items. One is 2A and 2B, and we're talking about two.
So I
talking
have a
about 2B.
question on this, like, resolution right here. The way it's presented, is it that this cost be passed on to the district or the soccer club incur the $2,500?
The district.
The information that I received is that the soccer club would like to go with the 8 Saturdays. And so we provided a projected cost to cover the custodian and security personnel. We did not include a cost for heating, wear and tear of gym floor, or anything of that nature. But the projected cost is what it would cost the district to have personnel on site on the Saturdays requested.
And who's
Any other comments on this?
I'm not crazy about them using the high school. but
Neither am I.
they'll
Not
ask you
doing the
for
high school.
Middle school, right?
Mhm, just middle
The middle school, it is open on every Saturday from 9 to 3 or 9 to 2, or is that what you're?
no, that was the high school for varsity sports.
No, that was later.
Right, that was later.
That was later. So
Just kind of speak a little bit more. to the
there,
mic.
the soccer is requesting to use the middle school
From 9 to 2.
from 9 to 2.
Mhm.
And what grade level are those children? Are they the young one, younger ones?
The roster.
Because don't they have practices and whatnot, or
They
they
don't-
have
they don't have
training
the
and
age.
stuff during the week outside?
They don't have the age is not there, so I'm not too sure what
Okay.
age is.
Megan, do you know by any chance? I'm just curious.
Chris would know.
Well, the roster that's listed is just, it's not participants specific for that day. That's
That's everyone.
that's just people registered with the league.
Okay. All right, any other questions on agenda item?
Yeah, I still don't understand. When we vote on it, I don't know what I'm voting for. Are we voting for the district to incur the cost?
Yes,
and
the
give it away
district
for
will.
free, or are we voting for the soccer club to pay for it?
No, right now the district is paying for it, correct?
Maybe you,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm providing the board with the cost, the minimal cost that it would take to approve it. The board can approve it uh, with the cost to the organization, or the board can invoke their right to waive the cost. It would be the decision of the board.
Is it necessary to have a custodian and a security guard? Like, what's the security guard's role?
We have to.
Secure the facility.
So I want to point out something that I observed, I think it was last week. I went to pick up my son who was doing intramural soccer at the high school, and there was a door wide open on the side of the building. I freely walked in, there was no security in sight. The coaches didn't know that it was there, so if there's going to be security there, then they should be securing the site where the activity's happening. There was an event that was held by Amityville Soccer a few weeks ago. Again, they were allowed access to the gym at the high school. They didn't even know if there was a security guard there. So if they're there to secure the site, then they should be, again, securing it where the activity is happening. So either there shouldn't be security or they need to do a better job of securing it.
Okay, so I think the question that's really being on the table here is that the resolution is stating the cost is roughly $2,500. Do we want to incur the cost, or do we want the district to pay for it? Or are we saying that we want the soccer league to pay for it?
can I make one more comment? As somebody who scrutinizes the expenditures, I mean, I do go through these a lot. I don't really have a problem spending money on children. I mean, I think that's money well spent when it's for our children.
Okay, so once again, when we go to make a vote on this, are we stating that we want for agenda item 2B, do we want the district to pay for it, or is the soccer league going to pay for it? So John, I may need a little bit of guidance here for 3C2, 2B.
Maybe there needs to be two different motions?
Yeah, so what I'm gonna have to do is this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna have to rescind the motion for agenda item 3C2, because I'm gonna have to do it separately. Because there's a 3A and 3B.
Okay.
So there's 3C, 2A, and 2B, so I'm gonna have to separate out. So I need to
Okay.
rescind the motion for agenda item 3C, 2A, and 2B. I need to rescind that motion, please.
Okay, second.
Carol Seehoff is first, Megan Messman is second, because I have to separate them out because we vote on them individually.
Lisa, I think you can take the vote with the district accepting the fee, and then we waive the fee with a second.
So
vote,
let me
but
just,
you
I'm
still want to do
just
a
gonna rescind it,
second.
yeah. All those in favor of rescinding it? So
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Yep.
Just, we have to separate them out. Leslie? Chris?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now I'm gonna do this again. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C 2A, please?
Motion.
Second,
Chris Neeren, who was the second?
Megan?
All right, Megan. Now, so for agenda item 3C 2A, use of facilities, that's the town of Babylon. So can we vote on that one first?
Sure.
All right. All those in favor for 3C 2A?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Now I'm gonna can I have a motion for agenda item 3C 2B.
Motion.
Second.
Winnie Canestro, Caroline Fannin. So this motion currently as stated, that there's a projected cost of 2,500. So John, I'm gonna need a little guidance here. Are we, what's on the table, what's happening right now is, I may have to change my motion, that we're looking to either the district is going to incur the cost? Can we leave it at that?
So right now, that is how the motion is stated.
That the district
Right?
will incur the
Currently,
cost?
it
Okay.
is, and this is a recommendation by the superintendent of schools. My understanding of the superintendent of schools is recommending, as per this resolution, that their approximate cost of $2,500 and $2,504
That the
will be a
district-
charge
To the district.
No, a charge
Good.
to the club,
Okay,
to the organization.
all right.
I-
So,
That's how it's stated in the, currently stated in the resolution.
okay, so the question that I have with the motion on the table
Right.
for this item, if it was voted on and people vote yes, hypothetically, that means the organization would be charged.
Correct.
If we vote no, then that means the organization would not be charged. Can we?
No, that means that the facility
wouldn't
use
get
does not
passed.
pass. If subsequently there's a motion to amend this motion and remove the charge, and that motion as amended would then be permitting the use without the charge.
So now I have to rescind this motion too, don't I?
Well, right now, this is how the superintendent has recommended it. If you wish to amend it, you can amend it you've moved it, you can move to amend it
Okay,
in the middle of your motion.
okay, so that's where we're at.
I have one more question. Some districts, they have with the custodial staff, I'm just throwing this out there. They sometimes have one person on a Saturday rotation, so to take, rather than during the week, one of their work days would be a Saturday. So I'm just saying maybe it's Tuesday to Saturday to cover the cost if facilities need to be used
They
on
work Monday
Saturday.
through Friday.
No, I
Yes.
understand, but what I'm saying is some districts do it that they floated on a
But
Saturday.
that opens up, that has to be negotiated.
Oh, that's
That
true.
opens up a
Okay.
contractual issue.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
All right,
So
so
I-
John, I need a little guidance here.
So there's a motion and second
Mm-hmm,
for this resolution.
Mhm.
As stated, that's what's on the floor.
correct.
If a board member wishes to amend the motion that's on the floor, they may make a motion to amend this resolution that's on the floor to remove the projected cost of $2,504 from the current resolution, and then that would be voted on. If you do not amend it, then it's going to be put to the vote as stated, which is this projected cost would be the charge to the organization.
Everyone understand?
So,
Has the
Yeah.
organization said they'd pay this? Do we even know that before we vote on this?
One of the board members of the organization contacted me and said to indicate what the cost would be and that the board could invoke their right if they wanted to waive it. So he is aware of what the cost would be.
so I'm just gonna chime in here. $2,500 is 0.00% of our budget. And I'm aware that the Amityville Soccer Club is a 501 organization, and they provide significant financial aid to many of their players. So if we do decide to charge $2,500 to them, that's $2,500 that they would not be providing financial aid to their players. I would,
Was that explained to Dr. Talbot?
I'm not sure.
John, you look like you have a question.
No.
Oh.
I'm just wondering if there's a motion.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for too.
So the motion to
If
waive the fee or remove the
You can
fee?
move to amend
Okay,
the motion that's currently on the floor.
and then we can try to vote
to waive-
without the
to
fee?
waive- To remove the fee, yes.
Okay, sure. I'll make a motion to remove the fee from the soccer club.
So it's a motion to amend the resolution
I'll second it.
to remove the fee of $2,500 and for 2,504.
Can I say something?
Right, so let me just, that's the motion. So I think I heard, who's a first? I need a first.
Oh.
Megan?
Megan?
And
Megan,
Wendy second.
and Wendy second. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're opening it up to anyone that has the application. So we will pay for every organization to use our facilities on Saturdays and Sundays. This is the opening of something. We have not negotiated an ATA contract yet. And there's programs out there that want to use our facilities now that we're opening them up. That's
Right.
something
that-
that I really feel uncomfortable with at this point.
All right, so the motion,
make-
it's on the table.
And I-
So, go ahead.
I also understand that the facility use policy is one that's been discussed in the policy committees as one that needs to be updating in the next meeting. If I'm correct.
And-
I'm not on the facility, I'm not on the policy committee, but it's next on.
So I will also say, as I stated before, that back in the fall of 2023, when we first discussed the use of facilities policy in a policy committee
Okay,
meeting
that's fine.
about maybe charging a fee or not charging a fee, we were just having a discussion on the matter. It became a whole issue within this community. So now that we're at a point where we're having this discussion, the motion's on the table, and I think everyone has talked about it enough, and we just need to vote on it. So the motion to amend the resolution to remove the fee of 2504 was by Megan first, Wendy Knessel second. So what is the vote to remove the fee? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that's Megan Messman, yes. Wendy Canestro. Any other yeses? All those opposed? Aye.
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 Chris, Leslie, Caroline, and Carol. So the motion fails. So now,
So that returns the motion
So-
back to the former motion that's on the table. And the
With the
motion that's
fee.
before the board is as stated in the resolution with the fee to the organization.
so
Okay.
returns motion as stated for 3C2B, that the fee, the charge will be to the organization. Can I have do I need another first? on
Nope.
this?
It's
All
already
those in
present.
favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I gotta get
Aye.
the yeses. Who's yes?
I
Everybody.
think
All right,
everybody,
motion carries 7-0.
and I would ask that you start submitting.
All right, so can I have a motion for agenda item 3, can I do 3C, 3 and 4 together?
No.
No.
Have a motion for agenda item 3C3, please.
Motion.
Motion.
Chris Nearing, Winnie Knestro, any discussion on this item?
No.
Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C4, please?
Motion.
Second.
Chris Nearing,
Second.
Carol Seehoff. Discussion.
What are we, hiring this law firm for?
So the engagement contract with this law firm is through our insurance company for the data breach that took place on November 19th.
So since it's through the insurance company, is it covered by insurance? Or is it?
There is the possibility to incur fees that will be paid by the insurance company. Ms. Buatsi, do you need to clarify anything on that?
There is
Yeah.
a possibility of a fee because of the deductible, That
What is
was
the retention?
about
10,000?
25,000.
25,000? Is this, do we have cyber insurance? Is this
Yes,
through
this
cyber
is-
insurance?
This is through cyber,
Do you know what our limit is offhand?
1 million for
Okay.
this particular one. And then we have the other one for 250.
Okay, thank you.
Why do we think we need this?
Because when the data breach was reported to our insurance company, there are actions that they have to take with the persons impacted, as well as investigate the matter.
Are we being sued because of this?
No, we're not being sued because of this.
Can-
The district took an action where exposure of information. And so now we had to report that infraction to the insurance company. And now the insurance company has to take certain steps because of that. And they have secured this law firm to carry out those investigative steps.
So is this a requirement by the insurance company and it is not anything that our current law firm
Oh,
could take on?
it's through the insurance company, which is a different set of legal council.
So do we not have a choice in this matter? Is it?
If you don't want to forego the insurance, right? So
This-
this is a function of the insurance.
This is typical. This is
that-
typical.
So the
It is
the insurance carrier has, has this, law firm that provides the notices and does the investigation as part of its insurance for, cybersecurity.
So we only just
Okay.
discovered this afternoon because it wasn't on the agenda we received on Friday. So I was hoping we could table it and learn more because it seems like a big thing to say yes to, but it sounds like it's something we have to do no matter what anyway.
It's part of the insurance you've
Right.
already procured.
Right. yeah.
This
It's
is,
typical.
this is typical. As somebody in
It's
insurance.
typical of any data breach when you get notification.
You've already procured the insurance, so
Right.
really, the board has already agreed to this when it bought the insurance.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3D1, please?
Motion.
Megan Messman is first.
Second.
Thank you, Winnie Canestro is second. Any discussion on this item?
I just have a quick question. We discussed at the last monthly meeting that the appropriations report would become available on the website for the public. Is that, because I was looking for it, I didn't see it. Is it up on the website?
Yes.
It was, yeah.
I looked for it. Where was it?
Under business, but I'll double check because we send it to.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
it's
thank
under, within the public documents on the agenda item was one of the links that are there.
Oh, you're saying it's associated with the agenda?
Yes.
It's not separate. Okay.
No, it's not
Thank
separate.
you.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions about the appropriation status report. On page 11 of 21, payments to charter school, it's a deficit of almost $179,000, but we had the expenditure of $225,000 for charter schools carry over to this budget. Is that in addition to,
This is separate and apart.
separate?
This is for this year, 24, 25.
Okay, so we're in the negative for almost 179,000, and then plus we're in the negative for 225,000 from last school year. Is that
No,
correct?
you can't-
Just-
Last year is closed.
It's
Can you
closed.
just bring the mic a little bit closer?
Last year's books are closed.
It's closed. Okay, understood. I just had a couple of other things. On page 15 of 21, it says salary, summer program administrator, high school. It was
Yeah.
budgeted for 13,000, but we actually spent almost 122,000. So now we're negative, almost 109,000. How could that be such a big disparity?
We had. Okay. Mary, you want to pick it up or you want me to do it? I'll do it. This has to do with summer Regents exams. We went over this and this was required. We knew we were going to exceed the budget.
Just bring the mic a lot closer.
Yeah, we knew we were
Thank
going
you.
to exceed the budget. This is something that we went over several times during the summer months when this program was going on, because we're monitoring it very carefully. But it was required, so we had to.
Is this something we do every year? Is it the same thing we do every year? This program? Because if we do it every year, why wouldn't we have forecasted better?
May I just further add for clarity?
Sure.
This summer Regents review was originally grant funded. It was budgeted in a grant. And then it did not meet the eligibility criteria.
Correct.
And it had to be funneled back into general fund.
Correct.
So we offered it without knowing we had the grant, or we offered it anyway?
We had to. Go ahead, Dr.
It's a requirement or it's not?
It had been submitted in the grant. And evidently it had not been approved as an expenditure and there was a miscommunication. And so as a result, we could not absorb that cost in the grant and it was absorbed in the general fund.
Okay, on page 14 of 21, it says teachers K-12 temporary. There's zero budgeted but we spent almost $241,000. So now we're in the negative of $240,000. What is
Yeah.
that?
When we are rolling over teachers in July, sometimes when they are coming from a grant, we don't know where to place them at that point, but all those people have been reallocated and it has been cleaned. So by December, you will see that code go to 0.
Okay, and just so the audience understands, these reports only go to October 31st.
Yes.
I have one more question, just so I could get the page number. Sorry. I'm sorry, I had written it down because we were doing it electronically. I think I'll just go off of my notes. There was several items on, I should probably find it. Hold on one second.
I'm going to jump in then, because I have a few just simple questions. On the revenue report, at the bottom, it says total revenue 115.7 million, but the approved budget is 117.7 million. So with a $2 million difference, which I would have attributed to the 2 million we got from the state, except in the other state aid line, and it's showing 2 million. So why does the total revenue show 2 million less?
$2 million was supposed to come from reserves. That's not included as part of revenue.
Okay, so there's
Yeah.
like a transfer that would, okay. I got
Correct.
that. Thank you. Does the revenue report, like where do we go to see grant funding? And the reason I asked this question, when you mentioned, Dr. Talbert, the Title III, Title I grants, like if we get a grant mid-season, mid-year, where do we see that reflected?
The revenue report for the grant should also be included in this report.
In the treasurer's report?
Yes.
So could you?
Because grant funding, you're allowed to spend up to 20% because it takes them a while to approve the grant. So sometimes we don't get the revenues until later. So we don't have any revenues coming in for the grants, but we are allowed to spend up to 20% because they know that, payroll has to be met, especially the title grants and the grants that come every year.
Okay, but when I look at all the columns in the revenue report, I don't see anything that looks like it would be a grant. And then when I look here on the table of contents, I don't see anything either. So where in this packet might I see it when the money finally comes in?
I'll double check it and make sure that the treasurer includes the revenues for the grants in his report.
It would be
next
called
week.
like grant revenue? Okay.
Yes.
So that's forthcoming.
Yeah.
All right. I also had a question about the charter school line because a month ago, it was showing the deficit that you had already warned us about for 225,000, but this year it's less.
Correct.
Did we get kids back?
No,
What happened?
there were a couple of kids that decided not to go to charter schools.
We got
So-
them back.
So, yeah, they came back to the district.
Okay.
So the number became less.
Got
So
it.
I'm hoping that, the number will go even further down.
That happened during the
does.
school year?
It does.
They started and then they dropped out?
And came back.
Okay.
It
All right.
does happen.
And then sometimes it goes the other way, correct?
Sometimes it go the other way, sometimes it comes the opposite direction.
Okay,
Yeah.
got that. And then last thing is just a commentary. Last month's meeting, I had just gone through quickly to tally up all the deficits in both the general fund and the federal fund line. And you explained the federal fund's too complicated, stay away from that. So I did this time around. However, with the general fund, a month ago, the total of all the line item deficits was 574,000. Now it's up to 619,000. And that's after accounting for the money we recouped from the charter schools changing. So I just throw it out there as an indication. The deficit line by line is creeping up from last month. So that's my comment.
We'll continue looking at it, but I'm sure it will be going down when we do all encumbrances.
I found my question. It's on page 4 of 5. It says there's two salaries here. And it lists the position, then it says healthcare workers bonus, and they each got $1,500. They were given a bonus.
General fund?
This is. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
What are these bonuses? Because now we're negative $3,000.
Yes, during COVID, the governor gave healthcare workers up to $3,000 each.
Okay.
This included, I think, social workers and some group of employees. They did not give, you have to work a certain period of time to get that money. And we gave the first allocation, they approve it, they send it to us, and we have to give the monies.
So it goes through the school district. It didn't go
Correct.
directly to the employee, and that's
It
how
goes to the employee, though. It goes to the employee.
But it
They
has to
give
go,
us the-
it has
they
to
give us-
work through the district.
Correct.
And that's New York State regulations, I
Correct.
guess. Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I do want to just say one other thing. I'm sorry. The claims auditor noted that there were 2 purchase orders that were encumbered after the invoice of data service. So it said that they should be, they should be created before, we have to get approval before they're encumbered. Yeah, this is the second time that it came up, to Leslie's point.
We are trying very hard to make sure there are no hand-drawn purchase orders.
Okay,
you know,
because, right.
and this will clean it up, and we are getting better.
I know, because this only goes till October, so I hope I don't see it in the November report. Okay,
But sometimes it's an emergency and we have to do it. Sometimes they have to call it in because it's an emergency. Sometimes it's
Okay.
unavoidable.
okay, thank you.
But emergency POs must go through a,
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Carl, what?
Just give him the mic. Can you just call the mic?
Oh,
so
I
that
think
we-
he said there's training and
So let-
reminders to
go ahead,
employees,
Carl.
right?
Constant training and reminders to employee, make sure they toe the line with this.
Okay,
so this matter was just addressed this week? Yeah.
But-
As a matter of fact, we addressed it
Not
this
to
week.
say that you would not, it will completely go away, because in some emergencies, you have to order the item.
okay,
If they need it, something happens in a school and they need it immediately.
Yes,
We try very much. If they need something, call us, we'll set the purchase order up. But sometimes it's unavoidable.
yes, but it must be very rare, it must be rare.
Correct.
And we are putting controls in place to avoid that. And all pertinent parties have been properly communicated with as it pertains to the submission of confirming POs.
okay, thank you.
Have a motion for agenda item 3E1, please.
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Carol Seehoff, who seconded?
Second. Megan?
Megan Messman. Any discussion on this item?
I have a question. It looks like a special ed contract with West Islip, but it's for 2 private schools, including a parochial school, so, which I didn't think offered special education services. Am I
They do absolutely provide special
So,
ed
John, have you
services.
reviewed this contract?
Yeah, Ms. Stan.
My office has, yes.
Okay.
So if the students are parentally placed in a private school in a particular public school district, then the public school will bill us for the services. Whether it's a private parentally placed special school, then they will bill us for the services because they have to extend the services through their public school district to the private schools or the special needs schools.
It was just the names of the schools that surprised me. I never would have thought that St. John the Baptist offered special education services, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Can I do agenda items 3F1 and 2 together?
Yes.
Can I have a motion for agenda items 3F1 and 3F2?
So moved.
Second.
Carol Seehoff, Chris Neeren, any discussion on these items?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
My motion carries 7-0. So we have moved up the community input regarding non-agenda board items at this time. So at this time, we will take community input regarding non-board agenda items only.
Good evening, everyone. It is so good to see many of you. I want to openly give feedback first by thanking Dr. Gina Talbert for giving such clarity with the financial breakdown to really explain to the community and to counteract the misinformation that was posted on social media. And I think you deserve a thunderous applause for that eloquently clearing up our concerns. With that being said, at that age, I just find it interesting that we were ready to abandon charging people to pay for weekend use of our facilities when we are crying the deficit. That's an opportunity to have income and to not have teachers have a contract, but to be so moved, to be so concerned about these items. It just seems like this is not, the priorities are not managed properly. To see such sensitivity to athletics, which I support athletics, but we have teachers that don't have a contract, that is disconcerting, very disconcerting. And I would just urge the board to consider reprioritizing your agenda and where you show empathy. As a person that has studied in my final dissertation, secondary trauma, to have to constantly fight about, in some cases, minute issues that frankly often seem to be racially motivated. They really do. It's oppressive. And it's becoming tiresome, but we have to continue to fight. We made such, we pinpointed a particular staff member, and we really stretched the comments concerning whether people speak Spanish or not, which I understand because approximately 60% of the student population are Spanish speaking, so we want that reflected. But our board doesn't even reflect this community. And so it is disturbing to show such concern with one aspect, but yet there seems to be a determination to keep people oppressed. And this has to change. And I'm not talking just skin color. I'm talking about ideologies that are Eurocentric and do not really take into consideration the trauma of having teachers who care to come and to have to constantly fight for things that they should have, and they don't have a contract, and then they are expected to still serve. That's just, it's disgusting. We are not stupid people. We appreciate our teachers, our PPS staff. We appreciate our administrators. We are grateful to have a superintendent that understands our needs. But we need a board to support that. And there are some of you who do, because we have relationships, long-time relationships from ongoing positive and negative interactions. But there are some of you that do not fit that profile. And we need answers, and we need these nonsensical questions that all of a sudden come up to be used as a strategy to try to subvert or to divert the community to end. And we need to have a real conversation about harmony, because if you're going to serve, then you're going to serve our needs, not your own personal agendas. Enough is enough. There are certain things, with all due respect, that I would ask that you should know as a board member. Special education is a federal item, and all schools that are open offer special education services.
So,
So what I am summing up to say
thank you.
is this, thank you.
Yeah, your time is up. Just
Well,
sum it up, please.
I will sum up. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Lisa. We were given $2 million by, Ms. Pierre. That, yes, Jean-Pierre, correct? Okay, that was to sustain the school until this June?
Yes.
Okay.
Portion of it was.
A portion. We have $587,000 given to us in state aid. Okay, the projected cost to maintain is 1.5 million after the 587 is applied. A little over. So that leaves us with approximately $2.6 million. Right. Because that's the 587,000 is state aid, 2 million, right? So then that means that we would only need to raise about $500,000.
Right, so I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but what's gonna happen if I allow you to keep going?
I'm summing up.
But that means I have to allow everyone to keep going.
I'm summing up.
So I just.
So
have to
I am pointing out that that would only allow us, that would only require raising $500,000 to sustain the school. We can do that if we work together with putting the priorities in order. We cannot close Northeast School. Thank you.
As everyone comes up, and I just request that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, because if I extend one person's time, then I feel obligated to extend everyone's time. So please be mindful of the timer and the 3 minutes. If I kind of bring the mic towards myself, that's when I'm going to ask you to sum it up. Thank you.
No problem. Good evening. My name is Daphne Rizari. I am the founder and president of the Long Island Latino
You
Teachers
can lift the mic up
Association.
if you want, yeah.
Sure. Better known as LILTA, we are a not-for-profit organization of approximately 150 volunteer members. We don't receive salaries. And our mission is to increase graduation rates, higher education enrollment, retention, and completion. Thus, I'm here on behalf of LILTA, board advocating to keep the Northeast Elementary School open for preschoolers. We all know that early education is crucial and beneficial for all students. Some researchers go as far as say that preschool year is the most important year because it teaches our young learners to be learners. This is more importantly for our vulnerable populations, such as English language learners, which you have 22% of your population, special ed, which you have 17% of your population, and economically disadvantaged students, which is 73% of your population. LILTA is here to support and collaborate with the school district in providing and meeting the needs of all students and their families. So we hope that you keep the school open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Kind of piggybacking off of what Dr. Martin said regarding the Northeast School. That was brought to my attention when Kimberly John Pierre's assistant came up here and spoke about that. So why are we even talking about closing the school? Like, we understand that. We understand the money, but she just came and spoke about the money, and the money was there allocated. Why are we talking about closing the school now?
For just 1 year. It ends in June.
And there was money left over, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
No, no, the money will be will be ending in June of 2025. So
So
we,
what was it that we had to fundraise? Was it $500,000 or what was it?
it's going to be more than that. Yeah.
What,
Because
what,
it's $500,000 for the, that we roughly $500,000 for the, from the grant, but there's another like 1.5, 1.6 to keep it going. Go ahead, Dr. Talbot.
okay, Doc.
So the school is actually closer to 1.6 million to keep it open. She's raising her eyebrows and saying, go up a little more. And in state funds, we get 587,000. So the difference is what we need to apply toward the expenditures of keeping the school open.
Okay, another question is, so why aren't we talking about those steps publicly? Why isn't it like a camaraderie talking about those steps? Why are we talking about closing the school down? Or is that just like policy procedure where we gotta speak about that?
Earlier,
So-
we did talk about some of the steps that we're taking
Right.
to maintain the school. We've been meeting with others about leasing out space that's not used by our pre-K program. We've talked about the 4410 applications that will allow us to serve additional students, and that cost would help us to operate those programs within Northeast. We talked about the possibility of relocating our kindergartners back to Northeast to complete, the outfitting the school. We have talked about those options to transition in terms of keeping the school open.
And just a little bit more clarity, if you guys don't mind, the special education aspect. I'm hearing that kids are being denied special education in Amityville. That's not true?
No, and if a parent has spoken with you, please connect them with us
Okay.
so that we can properly service the needs of the youngest scholars. We don't want anyone turned away and not understand what the steps are to move towards it, or intervention steps that maybe they don't need the full special education services. Please
Thank you.
connect them with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Matt Grice, 85 Crick Road, Islip Terrace. Now, we all know that we've been operating on an expired contract, but the existing language in the contract still remains in effect. This includes the grievance procedure, process designed to foster communication to resolve disputes quickly, cheaply, and at the lowest possible level. Unfortunately, this has been a frustrating process, as there's been very difficult to get the district to adhere to the timelines and procedures within the contract. Ignoring the language only makes resolving disputes more difficult and leaves our members harmed and in limbo for an unnecessary amount of time. With that being said, however, I'm glad to report that after months of being ignored, we've finally been granted a hearing in front of the school board on January 22nd to present grievances related to involuntary transfers, long-term substitute pay, and compensation for a sixth class. I'm disappointed it took this long, but I'm hopeful this will set us on a path towards a resolution. Speaking of additional classes, and it's been brought up here about special education, I'm not sure where we're falling short or whose shoulders this falls on, but I have some concerns. It's been a vacancy in the middle school for special education teachers since the end of September. This has impacted several ICT co-taught classes and a resource room. We have made multiple requests to allow the special education teachers in the middle school, who are both very willing and highly qualified, to be assigned an additional class to cover this vacancy. These requests have fallen on deaf ears. I want to make this clear that what I'm saying has nothing to do with trying to get additional compensation for teachers. This has everything to do with protecting our students. To date, no one has been hired to fill this position, and middle school teachers have only been asked to serve as substitutes. Let me explain what this means. Since they are not the teacher of record, they have no access to the grade book, they are not responsible for parent contact, and most importantly, they don't receive access to student IEPs and 504s. As a result, one of our most vulnerable student populations have not been able to receive their federally mandated services. Despite our pleas to allow these dedicated teachers to be moved out of a substitute role and approved as a sixth class so that they can become the teacher of record. 2 years ago, it took the district getting embarrassed on News 12 before finally filling several vacancies in the high school. it appears the lesson wasn't learned. Whether mandated or unmandated, I can't understand why we would not want to give our students what they need to be successful. And the line quote, "We are working on it," it's just not good enough anymore. I'm fearful that either the district can't figure out these solutions to these problems, or they just don't care as long as it saves a few dollars. My only hope is that a third option may still exist, one in which the district makes a decision to do what's in the best interest for these children who attend our schools. The choice is yours.
Jacqueline Stevenson. I just have a bunch of follow-up questions from previous meetings. The first one is from the October 23rd meeting. There was an organization called the National Coalition of 100 Black Women that gave a presentation on a mentoring program for high school students. And I just wanted to know what the status was of that because it was slated to start November 14th.
Dr. Talbot? Thank you.
Sure. The 100 Black women presented their mentoring module to us, and we still anticipate their active participation with our high school students. That night, it was presented that there was an insurance component that was required, and they are working on securing that, and will hopefully will be joining us soon.
Okay. What is the status of the superintendent evaluation and the board evaluation? Has that been done or is there a date for it?
We just recently looked at the policy regarding board evaluation, and typically what happened with that is that there's a new process for the board evaluation, and we're still looking at the superintendent evaluation.
So
The superintendent evaluation was done for 23, 24. Yes. the
It
next one-
was?
Yes. mhm.
Okay, so does that information get relayed to the public or is that just for the superintendent?
If everything is agreed upon and signed, then yes, it gets released to the public.
So that hasn't happened
It's
yet?
not happened yet.
Okay, so will you be attempting to do her evaluation at her annual date in August coming, this coming August?
There's
Because it
certain,
was,
there's certain guidelines in her contract that will determine when her evaluations are done. I just don't remember off the top of my head.
okay. Do you have an update on the regionalization plan?
Dr. Talbot?
Yes, the regionalization deadline has been extended to January 15th. As of now, Amityville is still participating in the regionalization unless the board directs otherwise.
What is the status of the $43,000 that we're supposed to be getting from the culvert project?
I don't think it's. Go ahead, Dr. Talbot. Just, you got to speak into the mic. Thanks. Thank you.
The $43,000 from the COVID, they claimed that we still haven't received the check yet, but I'm looking out for it.
Okay. What is the status? Someone had mentioned it in the November 20th meeting about new policies for social media, cell phone, and AI. What is the status of that?
The policy committee is still working on different policies. We haven't gotten to those policies as of yet.
And also the cell phone, the governor might be imposing a cell phone policy statewide. That might be coming down, I think, in July.
Thank you. Question regarding the EPC. Why was Northeast removed from it?
Dr. Talbot, or you want to pass it over to Olivia and Carl? Why was Northeast removed from the EPC?
Ms. Buatsi.
It has to do with the questions that a lot of residents have been raising about the Northeast School. So we had to remove it from the scope of the project. But as you can see today, the board passed a resolution to even terminate the whole agreement.
Okay. So I'm assuming you're going to be going into more detail about the committee for Northeast? Okay. And the reason why I asked that is because at the last meeting, someone up there, I don't want to say board member, I don't remember who, but someone said having a committee doesn't necessarily mean Northeast would be closing. The committee would review other possibilities. So that's why I asked that question. But I'm assuming you're going to go into more detail when you talk about it, correct?
Yes, just for quick clarification, John, in regards to the education law 402A and the
Yes.
closing of schools and establishing an advisory committee, if a committee is established, does that mean the school is definitely closing?
No.
That's the question.
No, it is a utilization committee. So under the statute, it has a specific charge to look at specific factors with respect to utilization of the school, including utilizing that school for other purposes and not closing it.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. It was also mentioned in the last meeting that you were going to look into having one class trip per grade, because right now certain grades do not have class trips. So what is the status of that?
Dr. Taylor?
So Ms. Stevens has been in communication with the building principals regarding that request. And you want to give an update as to where we are now with it?
The elementary principals have identified one trip per grade level that they wanted. The secondary principals did it by core content area instead of by grade level so that it would be curricular related. And we're currently working with transportation and the business office just to cost those out so we have a reasonable expectation.
What is the status of the damaged or missing seats at the high school auditorium? One of the board members mentioned that at the last meeting.
So following the report out of the damaged seats at the high school auditorium, we communicated with our building and grounds director, who went on site and conducted an inspection. And he contacted a vendor because it's going to require a specialized service. And they are scheduled to do their walkthrough tomorrow.
And regarding the financial consultant, wasn't he in charge of a committee?
Yes.
So what's going to happen with that committee? If he doesn't change his mind and stay?
So the committee received the charge that it would be co-chaired by the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations and one of the members, and one of the members has agreed to co-chair. He was never necessarily the chair. He was the facilitator and launcher to get us off the ground. And so the committee will be co-chaired by Ms. Buatsi and Mr. Misha.
Okay. And with the policy final readings that happened today, what is the next step?
So the next step from here, excuse me, is that now the policies will be updated, and then eventually, in a timely frame, they will be placed up on the website. I believe legal has reviewed them already, or will review one more, probably will review them one more time, and then from that point, there's a notation that's placed on the bottom that that policy was adopted on such date, and then it's uploaded to the website.
Okay, 36 seconds. Just the last two are not questions, just comments. I wanted to make a comment once again about the superintendent meetings that she's been having. I unfortunately missed the last one. That was my mistake. But I definitely have benefited from them, and I'm looking forward to the next one in February. I just wish more parents and community members would attend those superintendent meetings. They're very informative. And my last comment is, if I'm not here, I listen to the recordings. And it's a lot of times when the ATA presidents or members of the ATA come up, they have long speeches they read, but then there's no response from you guys. So if you could just reconsider responding to them, and because they're obviously taking the time to type out what they have to say, and what they have to say is extremely important. So it would, I think, benefit everyone here if they would get some sort of response, some sort of answer, some sort of timeline, because I feel like I said, it's very important. Thank you.
Legal, just for double, I think typically under circumstance like that, we really are not, I'm not allowed to speak or respond to a comment.
No,
or-
those, we have constant communications
Right.
between myself and Mr. Glenn, who is the labor relations specialist. Much of my conversations with Glenn, Mr. Glenn has already preempted much as what has been said at the floor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Katrina. I live 92 Maple Drive. I'm a community organizer and a community leader. I need to reiterate the fact that no, Northeast should not close at all, and you ought to do everything in your power to keep it open. I've sat here, I've listened to everything that you did have to say. And you are definitely 100% taking 25,000 steps backwards if you close the school. It is deplorable. It is despicable. It's despicable for the teachers to have to work without a contract. Why don't they have a contract?
It's
Does
being
anybody
worked-
know?
It's being worked on. We're
You're
work-
working on the
we're working.
contract. That's wonderful. Okay. And also, as I was listening to some of your plans to keep Northeast open, one of the plans was to rent out space in the facility. Who owns that building?
The district owns the building.
The district owns it, so that you allowable to rent out the space for the students. You also mentioned as a resolution that you're gonna have portable classes in Northwest Elementary School. I didn't understand what that was about.
So I'll let Dr. Talbot finish it, but some of the things that she was just stating that these are things that can be looked at. So we're not definitely doing it at this point in time, just things that possibly could be looked at. So,
Ideas.
yeah, ideas, a portable, is something actually that, we have some that exist in Northwest right now that have also become permanent. So it's just another way of having.
I think that's a horrible
So,
idea.
I'm just,
because-
you know,
I'm just saying because I live there. I live on Maple Drive. Northwest is right down the block from me on County Line. That school is overcrowded. You don't need to stuff nobody else in there. And from what my knowledge is, I'm telling you, don't need to stuff anybody else. There's people who don't even live in the district that drive to the school to bring their kids to the school that don't even live in the district whatsoever. They're also doing another development on Maple Drive and 110, a 14-unit development, housing development, which is also going to be overcrowded. So therefore, you would have to do a traffic study before you decide to put anybody else in Northwest Elementary School, because it's already overcrowded. We've been to too many board meetings about that. And I don't know if you're knowledgeable, but I'm letting you know right now that that's a terrible idea. You can't do it. You just can't do it. All right. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about.
May I just clarify?
Sure. I'm sorry.
So when we talked about the possibility of moving kindergarten from Northwest to Northeast, it would free up the portable buildings in Northwest. So we would be moving children to a permanent structure, a building that houses a permanent structure, and then looking at what are some of the possibilities that we could do with the portables that are located at Northwest. Just wanted to make sure.
I
you
appreciate
understood.
that, because that's why I needed clarity with the portable classes, like no more. Enough is enough is enough. You also, and this I need to know, the 4410, you said you resubmitted the program and you should get an answer by April 2025 to find out if it's going to be granted. Can you clarify that for me?
Yes, we submitted the applications previously. They have returned them to us, one for the special class, one for the integrated class. We submitted two because we had to reanalyze some of the numbers that they were requiring, the financial pieces. And so there were lengthy meetings going on to get that done, and we will be resubmitting them.
Okay, and you will have an answer supposedly tentatively in April.
We're looking to make a final decision prior to adopting the budget in April.
Understood. Is there any way we can have communication, like the community can have better, transparent communication with the board, so we're not in limbo until we get to the next meeting? Like, is there somebody you can reach out to, maybe like a pastor or assembly person, or maybe Madeline, or so we the community, the people who actually live here. I'm sorry, question, any board members
We all live in the
in the
district.
community?
Yeah, you have to live in the Amityville school, you have to live in the district in order to serve on the school board. Everyone has to live in the district.
Okay, understood. Thank you kindly. All right, so that was it. So that just believe that we should have more transparency, okay? And a better line of communication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Nakia Wolf, ATA President, 100 Court North Drive, Melville. I've spoken exhaustively regarding our contract situation and the lack of transparency. Recently, it turns out that we could have potentially come to a conclusion a long time ago if there was transparency as it relates to what was actually budgeted for teachers. Our members have had to wait while we have engaged in exhaustive negotiations due to the reluctance to share information. Once we found out what the actual numbers were, it was the union who pivoted. You really need to understand that transparency would have helped to move this negotiations process along a lot quickly, because at no point in time were we ever going to come to an agreement without having accurate information. When it became apparent that negotiations were stalling, I found it interesting that the district's negotiations team brought up field trips. I don't know what place field trips had in our negotiations talk, but my team found it insulting. The Board of Education put forth a budget that did not include field trips, one that everybody voted for, or that we had a majority of the community vote for. Although the board proposed budgets that would have allowed them, a current trustee who was not a board member at the time expressed that they didn't feel as though any of those budgets were feasible, especially one that pierced the cap. That's why I was also surprised that a Board of Education member spoke about field trips at the Board of Education meeting in November. When you have Board of Education members on the team who spoke out against the budget that ultimately passed, you actually wonder how committed they are to genuinely working to move Amityville forward. This week, we have engaged in pickets, and we will continue to do so until the district works with us to value our teachers. Every report highlighting the achievements of students are a byproduct of their efforts, that of their teachers, administrators, and other frontline employees. Yet those individuals continuously fight for less than a fair deal, continuously being surpassed by other school districts. It is time that you prioritize those who are the backbone of this district. Those of you who are committed to moving Amityville forward, I encourage you to do what is right and stand up for your school district. Thank you.
Good evening, Francis O'Brien, 684 Bohemia Parkway, Sable, New York. Seek first to understand and be understood. It's one of the things I teach in my classroom. In other words, listen first before speaking. Take the time to understand the other person's beliefs and thinking before stating your own. This cannot happen without face-to-face communication. We are supposed to be a data-driven district. Financially speaking, the data is constantly changing. Hence, there is no trust in the district statements or budgets, since a request to see the data has been denied by the district's negotiations team. Community members have spoken about past boards and how it's a disgrace the teacher's contract has been settled. Yet here we are 2 years without a contract. Simultaneously, the administration union is 3 years without a contract, and the custodial union is 2 years without a contract. We hear board members speak about Amityville being one district. I say prove it. Actions speak louder than words, and silence speaks volumes. This current approach is unnecessary, unproductive, and has failed to produce meaningful results. At November's board meeting, I was amazed that a board member asked the district to find money for field trips, yet failed to realize the simple truth. That it is the teachers who make field trips happen. The paperwork, transportation, ensure that every student has lunch, and most of all, organize with the venue to make the trip an educational success. While on the trip, the teachers are supervising students from the moment they come to school till the moment they leave, and yes, this includes students who are waiting to be picked up. Quite often, field trips go beyond the contractual day. You want to find money for field trips, but can't seem to find the money to pay the teachers to go above and beyond what is expected of them. Besides field trips, we hold additional extra help days, provide snacks and drinks for students, as well as purchase holiday gifts for those in need, all out of our own pocket. The board, you recently had the opportunity for face-to-face conversations with the ATA in an effort to expedite these contract negotiations. Again, seek first to understand, then be understood. The ATA is more than willing to do this. In fact, we requested you to come down one flight of stairs and meet us to make progress in our contract negotiations. That didn't happen. Even though we were in the same building, it didn't matter. We were actually miles apart with no effort by the board or the district to close this gap. To negotiate a contract shouldn't take 2 years, nor should this process be a pawn in someone's personal agenda to further his or her own ambitions. We keep hearing decisions are based on what is best for students, but again, actions speak louder than words. The middle school, swapping teachers a couple classes instead of signing them a 6th class does not support students. Teachers cannot teach, nor can students learn if there's not consistency for both. I have my evidence right here of what I'm talking about. So let's have the transparency necessary to move this district forward. Let's start by telling the truth to teachers who interview in Amityville. That truth is, Amityville is in the bottom 6% in terms of salary for districts on Long Island. Furthermore, if you retire from Amityville, then you will pay 50% for the cost of your insurance on an individual plan and 65% on the family plan. That is the state minimum. That is what you are worth to this district. The actions of the ATA are simple and speak for themselves. Past 2 days, our members were on the street in front of Northeast, Northwest, Park Avenue, Middle School, and the high school, all raising their voices, seeking to be heard and understood. Listen to our voices. Thank you.
And my final note, I'm Dr. Pepper Bonet Martin. I just wanted to offer as a suggested resolution for the translation issue. There are now Bluetooth translation, real-time translation earbuds that can be purchased. They are on Amazon. The cost range from $26 to about $100 and some cases $160, $170. So for your parent liaisons, or for any support staff member, if the concern is being able to communicate effectively, it is a viable concern that could quickly, swiftly, and efficiently be rectified by simply investing a nominal fee into this particular piece of technology. So if you research it, one is called Real-Time Language Translator Earbuds. Another one is called Language Translation Earphone, and it's the 3-in-1 translator earbud. And there's another one that's a 5-in-1. I would urge you to consider purchasing it so that we can eliminate having to now define what type of person or that person must have that language. We can now change our human resource structures and really open it up to the most qualified candidate, because if the person doesn't speak the language, whether it be Spanish, whether it be Haitian Creole or Urdu, we can now utilize this with human interaction and also to continue the use of language line as an additional support device. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pepper. Actually, our Teachers Association has recommended those. And with what the board approved tonight, the money available for supplies will go toward those actual devices.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
thank
Dr.
you.
Talbot. Okay.
Good evening, Patricia Hobbs in Amityville, Rainbow Lane. Good evening, and I've stood here many times, and I would hope, I'm going to pretty much say a lot of what you've already heard, in that you've heard the voice of the community in regards to the school in our community, and that hopefully the board will make a decision to remove that option of closing our school down for our children. I found it interesting in listening to some of the, what I would call tag teaming of good cop, bad cop, but you're speaking the same language that we don't understand, that one person speaks one way, and then whatever you're saying behind closed doors is going to be something different. It's not good. A board member this evening made a comment about not having a problem spending money for children. What are salaries? You pay teachers. That's spending money for children. So hopefully you'll reach a point that you'll prioritize what's important for our community. North Amityville is a community where a large population of the diversity in this district is. When you teach elementary children about community, they talk about their schools, the police, the fire departments. It takes a village. That school being in our community is important to us, which should also be important to you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other community input on non-agenda items? All right, now we're gonna go to old business. Go up to old business, whatever anyone wants to talk about at this point in time.
So
Open.
okay, I don't mind starting off about Northeast. It's a lot to follow up on after 3 hours of conversation. I'm going to start with the question. I understand, Ms. Boazzi, that there's a draft budget that's already been created as part of the budget committee. Is that true? For next year? There has not been at all?
You just gotta speak into the mic.
Okay.
We are in the process of building it. It's a process.
You're,
Yeah.
okay, so then I was mistaken about that. All right, so then I'm gonna go back in time to last spring when it was this administration that said to the community, we're gonna have to close Northeast. And everybody was upset. No one liked to hear that. And it was only because of the $2 million bailout that we got from Assemblywoman Jean-Pierre that it was able to stay open for one more year. Since then, we have heard little to nothing about it unless we ask repeatedly at board meetings. What is the plan for Northeast? What is the plan for Northeast? We had a one-time bailout, but we have to figure out what comes next. And information was not forthcoming. So and it started to sound scary because budget season is upon us and you have to have a plan. At the last meeting, November 20th, we agreed, let's have a committee. And I think many of us were thinking about committee in the general sense of a lot of community members getting together to figure out the plan. It wasn't until later that we received a memo that explained, no, actually, if you're considering closing a school, this is the sort of committee you have to form, and it has to, be formed 6 months prior. So there were very specific steps attached to the committee that we did not understand a month ago when we were just saying, we'd like it to committee to discuss it because we want to know what the options are. None of us want to close Northeast, but we know we have to figure something out. As long as we can't settle teachers' contracts and we can't offer competitive salaries and we can't bring excess staff back and we can't offer field trips and facility use and all these other things, it is imperative that the administration continue looking to cost-saving measures, and last spring, closing Northeast was one of them. So, the board is counting on the administration to come to us with all those options. What are they? The most we'd heard in the fall was, we're going to look into the 4410. What we heard tonight was the most information we've got about those efforts to look into the 4410. And as I understand it, it won't generate revenue. It won't put more money back into the budget. It will just cover the costs of servicing the children. Dr. Talbert, you mentioned reaching out to other vendors. The board has not heard anything about who you've reached out to and how those conversations went. The other day, I was curious about Marks of Excellence, which is an early childcare learning center at the intersection of Albany and Great Neck, just several houses down from Northeast. They operate COPEG's UPK program in the building alongside multiple programs. I live several houses down, and I was curious, so I just dropped in. I walked down the street. I wanted to see if anyone would talk to me, and I got a tour of the whole building. It was wonderful. I saw the babies, I saw the little kids, and I spoke with the owner who explained she's very adept at operating multiple programs through different government agencies. So the natural thought I had was, could you or someone like you do this in Northeast for Amityville as a UPK program? It's a possibility, but that's not the job, it's not the job of the board to figure that out. We are counting on the administration to do the legwork, do the research, find out what are all the options out there and bring them to us so we can talk about them. But up to now, the only thing we've heard is either we close it or we don't. But, you know, we want to know what the options are just as much as anyone.
So,
Caroline.
so I'm just gonna, I know, I saw Dr. Talbot pick up, I hear Megan on the other side of me. There's a couple of things. If hypothetically, we utilized, someplace like Marks of Excellence to come into Northeast to do a pre-K program, it would mean that we would have to let go a number of teachers, right? Because there will be different type of teachers that will be utilized for that program. Would it save the district money? Yes, it would, but it would mean that we would lose teachers. Dr. Talbot has spoken about the 4410. She has mentioned before in other meetings, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Talbot, in regards to looking at other options. Options are being looked at, but nothing has panned out yet. And that's where we're at right now. It's not like we have our head in the sand. We're not addressing it. So go ahead, Dr. Talbot, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, thank you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Northeast open or Northeast closed. There are several options that we're analyzing across the district. And even last year, there were options presented to the board and the community about relocating pre-K to Northeast. There were options presented other than just open or close the building. But let me walk back just a little further. Mr. Frazier reported out to the board his meetings with other districts regarding 4410. He has met with Principal Collins. Ms. Buatsi and I have visited Marks of Excellence. We also had a tour. We have invited her over to Northeast. She runs the complete UPK program for COPAY, and we would have to turn over our UPK money for her to run our program. We would like to keep our teachers running our program. In addition, if she wanted to rent space out from us, it would be at her expense, and there would have to be a charge incurred for parents to send their children. That was also discussed with Ms. Marks, who has an excellent reputation in early childhood. As it pertains to plans being presented to the board, we have said repeatedly that 4410 is not a revenue-driven program. We have said that we met with a district and they opted out of the program because it was not a revenue-generated program. We have met with 2 additional vendors and spoke about leasing out the building, and that information was shared with the board, what the approximate cost would be to lease out certain space in Northeast. But what we are working on is to compile all of this information in black and white so the board can see it explicitly and further discuss, is Northeast the topic to be closed or not? Or are there other options throughout the district that we can consider as well?
Thank you. Can I jump in? Because I think that you just answered my questions, Dr. Talbert, and to Caroline, I thought you spoke very well. I had similar thoughts that we have heard, and thank you, Dr. Talbert, you have spoken to it when we have asked you in public session during old business, what is the status of this? So we get a little tidbits, but it would be very helpful. And I was going to ask today during this part of the meeting that you put together a report of the steps that have been taken, where they have led, and so that we can look at the pros and cons and really understand to be able to move towards a recommendation for next school year. So, and, you know, to Caroline's point, I mean, I thought that we had to establish that committee 6 months in advance of even thinking about a change in the use of that building. Our legal counsel has told us that, no, you don't actually have to do that. So I don't think that we need to establish a committee. I think we do need what you've just stated, a summary of everything that's been done to date, all of the avenues that have been explored, so that the board can then, review that information and be in a better position to understand the path forward.
Excuse me. I kind of feel that we also, sometimes it's not just us who's sitting at the table that can provide input or ideas in regards to the situation that exists with Northeast and what are the options that we have. Dr. Talbot, the cabinet, the board sometimes has more insight than individuals that are in the community. So for me, if there was a committee that was started, but the purpose of the committee was, the focus was not to close the building, but to come together to talk about options to keep the building open and brainstorm, then that's, to me, I support something like that. I don't support establishing the committee to look at closing the building, but maybe establish a committee, provide input from the community about how could we keep the building open. So that's, I know we're part of that's the old business, but then I'll pass it back to Dr. Talbot.
So thank you for the clarity, because the consensus was given for the 402A to be formed. And then, of course, we were advised that that did not have to be followed. So if there are options that we're exploring and the board would like to hear ways to keep the school open, then we can develop presentations to that end.
And I think also whether I think it's not just presentations, but I think the presentations are great. But I think whether it's, containing information, whether it's different community forums that are not connected to a school board meeting. So it allows an opportunity for discussion to take place, whether it's done in small groups or whatever it may be, to have the discussion. And it has to be something that continues to happen. It can't happen today and not happen again to January 22nd. So whatever we decide to do as a board, like I said, I support a committee that focuses in on keeping the school open, not focusing in on closing the school. If we don't do a committee, then if we do several different forums. So sometimes when you have a committee and people are together, they can bring ideas back and go from there. So that's just my perspective on it in regards to that matter.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in. I don't think anybody wants to close a school, especially a school for pre-K. In fact, more districts are getting more grants for pre-K, not less. I do have a question though. From what I understand, Northeast pre-K at one point, because it looks like we had funding for 85 kids, but we have 126 kids. So now we had to fund an additional 42 kids, which drove up the cost. It's my understanding that in years past, to accommodate this, they had a morning session and an afternoon session. I mean, is that an option?
That makes it very difficult for parents, working parents.
I
Why
understand
it
that,
went to full-time.
but
Is it an option?
But I'm asking if it's an option because other districts do it. I think what we're trying to do is keep a program, keep the children here, help the parents, but also be realistic of what we can do, right? I don't really know every district. Usually districts have lotteries. That's why they have lotteries because they only fund a certain amount. So if a morning and afternoon can accommodate all the children, so we're able to do it and, still keep the school and keep the program, I'm asking Dr. Talbot to perhaps look into that.
But I think it's, and that's where, and I'll let Dr. Talbot answer, but I think that's where it goes in terms of whether, once again, it's a community forum or a committee. So there's ideas that are put down, just like you're suggesting, then it goes to Dr. Talbot. She can, in her cabinet, they can look at all the options and come back with clear information. So instead of giving one thing at a time, if there's several things, options that are being looked at, it could be looked at and fully flushed out and then go from there. So go ahead, Dr. Talbot.
Well, I just want to say, like, as a school board member that's sitting up here at a school board meeting, I'm asking if that's something for you to explore, when you're looking at the different avenues. I think that I am also nervous. It's
Yeah, but
budget.
Joe, Wendy, I'm going to interrupt because it's not, and it, right, you're asking as one school board member, but if it takes time to look at all that information, then we as a school board collectively should be on agreement that these are the things that we want Dr. Talbot to look at.
Okay, I mean, I didn't know that it was going to be such resistance, just having an idea, but
That seems like something that requires a lot of feedback from the community.
Right.
As it was
Exactly.
pointed out, that
Well, I can
is
just
drastic
answer it.
changes
Right.
that would need
it's
to happen.
just an idea.
Is it
to-
an
And, yeah.
option is the question.
Yeah, I could answer it right now. It's not an option.
Okay, that's
that's
all
it.
I'm looking
That's it.
for. So it's not an
In
option?
terms of what we've been approved for
Okay.
and the formula
that's it.
provided to us.
Okay,
Okay,
that
that's-
was easy enough. Also, when I do have another question, as far as when you say that you're looking to cut 2% expenditures in the budget, is that cutting the 2% expenditures in hopes of making up the money to keep the Northeast? When you're saying it's 1.6 million, is that what your goal is for that?
The overall goal is to just employ good fiscal practices and not spend every, dime in the budget to increase our fund balance. But as we are working very diligently to increase revenues and decrease expenses, then that would allow us to have more money to put toward Northeast, put toward fund balance, put toward closing gaps.
Okay, understood. So with the budget season upon us, I think when it was brought up in April last year that we potentially might have to close it, I think everybody was really shocked by it. I hope that, as it has been stated tonight by many people, that during the budget season, I think, begins mid-February, about mid-February or the end of February, that these discussions will happen throughout the budget season and not just at the end, at, that last meeting, but that we can continue the conversations of what it will look like, right? So we've had a lot of questions of what is it going to look like? So I agree with what has been said before, that, I'm looking forward to get the recommendations and the information and having it before us so we could have thoughtful discussion. But it is for administrators to bring it to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Any other comments on this item? Any other old and new business?
I would like us to have a, I don't think it was committee, but it was group of, the forum of the community for Northeast, because we do need to reach out and utilize the resources within the community to find ways to keep the school open and fund it. And there's a good network of people in this community that are very passionate about keeping it open. And we've seen a portion of that today.
So the question I have for the Board of Education, are we looking to do community forums? Or are we looking to, I'll do that. Do we want to do community forums?
Yes.
Yes.
Legal, that's something that we can do, correct?
Sure.
I'm just double checking. Okay.
But would we, so then for the January meeting, we would have the presentation? Is that?
Would the-
agreeable, Dr. Talbert? You mentioned the presentation of everything that's been investigated.
Would the forum take place before that meeting
I,
again?
I think that was my next question I was going to ask. I think that we should try to do a community forum before the January 22nd. So maybe at that forum, that's where that presentation could take place, and therefore there'll be ample time for people to ask questions and questions to be answered, because that would be the only focus that will be occurring at that time. So that's just my suggestion.
Wait, what are you saying to do, Lisa?
I'm just
Sorry.
saying that before January
Before, yeah,
22nd,
I agree.
just to do that should be the only focus for that night or whatever, would be whether it's we do a presentation, have a discussion, have questions, and then
should we now be specific about what the presentation should include? Because right off the bat, I just feel like the community should know, if you've already done a lot of research and understand why some options are possible and others aren't, to not reinvent the wheel, that's what I feel like you ought to present to the public so we can understand, oh, all right, that's a dead end, but this is promising.
But to your point, Caroline, I think that would be a good thing that would occur at a community forum. So whatever information she has gathered, the information that would be put out that way, that come hear the presentation from Dr. Talbot and the school board in regards to what has been looked at already.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we agree.
Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't too sure if you were saying to do it ahead of time.
No, I just want to be specific
Yeah.
about what's in the presentation. We want to know what kind of work has already happened and what are the results of that, because we have not heard much in the way of detail.
All right, so the Board of Education is in agreement, is the Board of Education in agreement to do a community forum and sometime in early January before the next school board meeting, which is January 22nd?
I would ask Dr. Talbert, how much time would you need before the board meeting then? When would that be? Would you need to do it a week before, 2 weeks before? What would work best?
Likely a week before. And I just need us to be mindful, and the part of this has been the gray matter and the variables, is that dollars are not fixed in many of these options. 4410 is not fixed. You're not going to know that until your applications are approved. I mean, your program is in motion. So we can present information, but it won't be fixed, and it really will still be a variable in the budget, right?
Like the potential pros and cons
Yes.
of this draft
And the lease,
option.
okay, and the leasing, is not going to be profitable enough to close the gap based on the ranges that we have received thus far. We will prepare that information and continue the other avenues, and I'll continue this effort with the absence of Mr. Frazier, who has been a real vanguard in helping us to move the needle with Northeast, and we will continue to forge.
You can think
those
about
meetings.
changing your mind, Carl.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing, Dr. Talbot, I just want to mention, we have discussed before, Northeast, the bathrooms are made for little toddlers and children. So when we talk about leasing or renting, you have to be mindful that we might not meet those standards of what's needed, for older children or adults or something. So that comes into play too. That's something we have to consider.
That actually was brought up during executive session, and I just want to clarify, because there just seems to be a tone with a few people on the board that information has not been presented to the board. However, that is not true. Mr. Frazier, Dr. Talbot has presented much information along the way at practically every executive session. So I just want to make that perfectly clear, and I'm sure that there are other people on this board right now that would agree with that.
Any other new or old business that needs to be addressed?
I just have one other thing, Dr. Talbot. I know that you're doing your monthly community meetings in the morning and the afternoon. And one of the parents mentioned, that she goes in sometimes. I'm wondering if it might be beneficial to maybe allow Zoom. So if parents they could Zoom in from work, maybe put earphones in, or maybe type a question, maybe just to expand the audience and the engagement.
Yes, and that is our initiative for the February meeting. We did talk about Zoom, and so that will be our first opportunity to connect virtually at our February meeting,
In the morning and and at the evening?
morning and the evening.
Okay, thank
Yes.
I have one other item that wasn't already mentioned by community members. The middle school project. Can the bid form please be shared with the Board of Education as well as the cost estimate for the CM so that we can be better informed as to what that might look like when we're making decisions about the middle school? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That will have to come from the architect.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other new or old business?
There was one outstanding item that took place at last night's CBAC meeting. Was that last night? Yes. Mr. Frazier wanted to put it on the table as he received some feedback from community members.
Yeah, so we had a very good a meeting last night of the committee. And there was one concern raised by the committee, which we said we'll bring back to the board for decision. And that concern was about extending or having access by the community to listen in to the meeting by the committee. Most of the committee members felt that this meeting, this committee was elected by the board to provide, to gather information, and at some point next year, provide a report to the board. They were not comfortable having a Zoom in their session where the community can listen into. So my question to the board is, and in the charge of the committee, it does say that the community can listen in, but they cannot speak. The committee feels that that should not be in terms of having the community members be part of the discussion.
Because they're collectively discussing and then collectively they'll give an advisory opinion to the board, right?
Yes, the
Okay.
committee would collectively give advisory information to the board. For example, we had our first minutes completed, and Dr. Talbert will be submitting that to the board, the minutes from the November meeting. But specifically about future meetings, having community members Zoom in as we discuss issues and the budget preparation and discussion.
So the committee as a whole is asking not to have that. For
Correct.
them to speak holistically and, freely without
Correct.
scrutiny. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not in support. I think the Board of Education created the committee and we gave them guidelines. I feel the committee should have that ability to speak freely and discuss, to agree, to disagree without any interference from anyone within the community. So I'm not in support of zooming it in or anything like that.
So
John,
do
you
we
give me a
need-
look.
Do we need consensus?
John?
So I'll just have to look at your policies and the charge of the committee,
Okay.
and I'll provide further guidance to the board.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you.
And I just want to pull up my computer. I just want to make one thing, bring to the attention of the board and the community that one of the committee members that's on the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee had sent an email to me just stating that they were upset they were incensed in discussion that took place at the meeting on the first night when the question was asked about where people lived, which part of Amityville that they lived in. And they felt that the question was to make sure that every segment of the district was represented. And as you well know, there's tax differences between town of Bowen and Oyster Bay. And part of the discussion was imperative that every person in the committee understood that understood it and could communicate their differences. So, and that was the only reason that it was done, not for any other reason. So the person wanted me to make it aware, but didn't want their name mentioned. Oh, go ahead.
Just a further comment, I neglected to inform the board that tomorrow we will have a site visit at Northeast from CEQA regarding the 4410 application that we put in. They will be coming out for a site visit to observe the rooms and the size of the rooms and the layout utilization of the building.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
And
the
just
update.
one last thing before I call for a motion to adjourn, just as a reminder, and maybe you didn't report and I missed it, was that we have the winter concerts that are coming up next week. So I think it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Some are during the day and some are in the evening. So if you're able to attend some of the concerts in the evening, that'll be great.
The high school is Wednesday.
The middle school is when?
Middle school.
And Monday.
I think it's Monday. And I think Northwest is like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during the day, and I think Northeast is Friday during the
Two
day.
times during the
Yeah.
8:40, 9:45 and 1:45.
Yeah.
And Park Avenue Spelling Bee on Thursday.
Yes. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn at 11 PM?
So moved. It's 11:10.
Carol Seehoff is first, and I think I heard Caroline Bannon second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 7-0. Thank you for coming out.